Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mangalorian. Danny Jordan is here with me as always as we continue our trek through Dragon Ball Super's manga. We are now in the Future Trunks arc, which was coming out around the time that the anime Tournament of Power was coming out, and a little bit after when Super ended. And before we went live, I was skimming through the chapter because Jordan and I were talking about it, and there are a lot of scenes that I had totally forgot about because a lot of the manga, and this is kind of why we're even doing this, or a big reason. A lot of the manga, for me specifically, I read it when it first came out, but I never really went back to read it. Obviously, for original Dragon Ball, like the original Dragon Ball manga, the 42, I've read through that a few times. But Super, not really. I guess it was more recent, and I had kind of already seen it. But I wanted to ask you, how many times have you gone back and reread at least this arc? Is it a lot? Is it a little? How do you feel about that?
A lot. A lot.
Really? Really? I'm surprised.
Oh
I'm
yeah, Goku
surprised.
Black and Zamasu are one or two of the things that I've talked about the most on my channel. So I've had to research for them in order to make my content. So yeah, I've reread it quite a few times. Especially
Yeah.
during the Daima era when we were getting all that new info about the Glend and the Kai, because I wanted to like see Zamasu from that lens. You know, the idea that Zamasu is a demon completely recontextualizes the Goku Black Arc in a very interesting way. So I decided to reread it around that time as well.
A lot of people say and have said that Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball Daima are two different canons, two different continuities, because there are certain things that happen in Daima that were not explained in Super, such as Super Saiyan 4 is the big one. And I can't deny, like, I understand why people would think that, but I'm here to tell you that's false. Yes, there are contradictions. We talked about that actually on the Mangalorian Super Volume 1 when we talked about Goku telling Beerus that Super Saiyan 3 was the highest transformation he had up until that point. And obviously, this is because Daima takes place before Super but after the Buu arc. But you have to understand that both of these products, even more so Daima, are from the mind of Akira Toriyama. And yes, there are contradictions, but guess what? Even the original manga had a few of those. Like we said
Yeah.
before, it's very hard to have
Well,
a story that old without some kind of
when Daima
contradiction.
came out, Toriyama said that the purpose of Daima, in his view, was to reveal the secrets of the Dragon Ball universe. And that doesn't sound like he's saying that it's exclusive to one series. That sounds like he's saying it's the secrets of the Dragon Ball universe as a
All of
whole.
it.
Yeah,
All
and
of
then
it.
there's that one image that Toyotaro came out with in the last volume of Dragon Ball Super that showed Popo with the horns as well. So obviously they are at least trying to count, the lore additions in terms of like the history and stuff like that into Super. Maybe not the events. Maybe the events won't happen exactly the same, but they are at least trying to implement, Toriyama's spin on what the Dragon Ball universe is in Daima. So.
Yeah, but either way, like even though there are contradictions, that doesn't mean that they're not part of the same continuity. And I'm saying that for a reason. I'm saying that because we can take the Daima backstory and apply it. And here's the thing: we're gonna have to do it here because the Future Trunks arc really has a lot to do with the Glins, the gods, the Supreme Kais, and what we found out about them in Daima, although it's not necessary for us to read the Trunks arc with that information, it certainly recontextualizes a lot of the journey of a Glin to become a Supreme Kai, you know?
Yeah, it does. Certainly
Worth
does.
worth talking about. Cody Wood with the quick super chat. Is the Dragon Ball dub bad or just the Z one? The Z dub is bad. The GT dub is bad. The Dragon Ball English dub is not as bad, but it does have its problems, mostly with censorship. The dirty jokes from Master Roshi and things like that have been censored from that dub. I still don't think like it's not. It doesn't commit the same crimes that the Z dub committed, right, when it comes to changing the characters. But it does screw up some things. So I would still watch it subbed if you want the pure, you know. Bob Zor, yo, if your Uncle Jack helped you off a horse, would you help your Uncle Jack off a horse? Ha ha ha. Justin Sullivan must have hacked your account, Bob. This guy. All right, let's get to this fucking manga. All right, let's get to it here. I'm using this panel because me and Jordan can be in a window above the chat, so the chat can be seen on screen for at least the majority of it. Yeah. Now, something else too, man. Toyotaro's art is steadily improving. And as we talked about yesterday here on the channel with that report about his new 3-page manga, the new promotional manga he's doing, dude, he got even better. I
flipped the hell out when I saw that. I was
you said it to me. You were the one that said it to me.
You know, yeah, I loved that. I was like, yes.
It's only 3 pages, man.
I don't care. I get to see Goku in the Wukong outfit. It's awesome.
And we've only seen that once before. So we're getting a lot of super chats that I was not surprised, that I was not expecting, but I'm okay with that, y'all. Send them through. Hayden Beer says, my third favorite arc of the super manga, I guess it's this arc. It's third, but I love this manga version more than the anime one. We're going to talk more about which version you like more of this arc in an upcoming edition of the Super Magic Show. I'm going to be joined by Star Blast Studios, aka Heish, and we're going to be discussing the Trunks arc remake that's going to be coming out for Dragon Ball Super next year. And there, we're going to go real deep as far as which version you like more because, and I've said this before, but I'm repeating it here, some of the elements from the Super manga are going to be put in the Super anime. So, there you go.
Yeah, and I have my hopes set out for certain things from the manga that I would like to see and certain things that I wouldn't, but we can get into that.
Right, yeah. And that's something that we'll talk about as we go through. So we're going to pick it up here. Now, first of all, I want to say that I love how this chapter is essentially the story of what happened in future Trunks' timeline in the Buu saga. Because that's a question, Jordan, that fans had going all the way back to when Dragon Ball Z was all we had. Dragon Ball and Z. What happened in the future Trunks timeline with Babidi and Dabura? That's a logical question that people asked. Now, Jordan, I assumed, wrongly, but I think it was the correct assumption at the time that because there was no battle between Gohan and Perfect Cell, Babidi never saw Earth as being the right place for him to harvest energy from Majin Buu, so it just never happened. Right. However, we find out in Super that Trunks was trained by Kaioshin with the Z sword. He never broke it, but he trained with it just like Gohan did in the middle of the Buu saga, and he did end up battling with Dabura, and we actually see the battle here. Babidi and Dabura showed up, and Trunks was the defender, and guess what? He's using the Z sword, which is the magical version of his sword. We know he knows how to use the swords. He chopped up Frieza with it. I always thought it was cool that we see Trunks wielding the Z sword, bro. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is most definitely a Toyotaro edition. This has got Toyotaro written all over it. The idea of Trunks using the Z sword, the idea of him being trained by the Kai.
Because he's very fanboy. Is that why you're saying that?
It's the kind of fan service that he used to try to give people in Dragon Ball AF. You know, it's very, very similar to the type of stuff that he tried to do back then. Now, I find this interesting because, first of all, we get to see the sword fight, which is
I was just going to say, the anime version of this is different and very, very brief. This version is obviously longer, and one of the things I hope that we do get in the remake is a longer version of this fight with the swords and everything.
Same. But I do like how Toyotaro kind of implements this to also give Trunks a bit more of a power boost that we visibly get to see, because Trunks would get stronger training with the Z sword as well. So we actually get to see something that Trunks did that made him stronger on screen in comparison to the Super anime, because, you know, in the Super anime we're basically just told that he barely luckily survived Goku Black for like 3 years, and that's what made him stronger. But here we get to see that he actually trained with the Z sword, and that gave him a bit of a power boost as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I had a video that I was gonna do one day. I don't know, I never finished it, but it was about how much stronger Gohan got with Z Sword training, because it really does improve. Obviously, it breaking allowed Ultimate and Fusion and all that, the Potara Fusion. But the point is, Trunks got a little shine here, and you see Trunks being a badass. He broke Dabura's sword, even the Z Sword, because Dabura used it. Even and Dabura's sword. Even Kibito was surprised. And because it's interesting, because in the Buu saga, Kaioshin recruits Goku, Vegeta, Gohan to go with him, and Piccolo and Krillin went too, but they got turned to stone. Here it's just Trunks, Kibito, and Shin. Much different circumstance. Now, one of the questions I've always had is, it's Dabura against Trunks. Where's Pui and Yakan, bro? We don't see them here at all.
Yeah, I guess they're kind of unnecessary. It did kind of seem like they were just being used to slowly drain energy from the characters in the Buu saga, and they're probably thinking that they can just get everything they need from Trunks right away. It's probably just a summarized version of those events. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, this comment is correct, by the way. So.
But whenever I reread this after Daima, I liked how this like recontextualized a lot of things, because I noticed that like Dabura mentions that whenever he goes to kill Trunks, that he says, "I'm going to kill you along with those puny lords." And one of the things that we never got to see in the Buu saga was Dabura really acknowledge his perception of the Kai.
Right.
We know that he obviously would know the Kai are a thing, but we never really get his opinion on them or anything that kind of expands on Dabura's character in that sense. That one line from Dabura is very revealing, because Dabura is being manipulated by Babidi, using the evil in his heart, and the characters, when they're under the control of Babidi, whatever evil within them is exaggerated. So that it kind of reveals to us a bit why Dabura was easily manipulated, because the evil within his heart has to do with having some sort of hostility towards the Kai, which I find pretty interesting. That expands on Dabura's character quite a bit,
And of course, Vegeta's was his animosity towards Goku. The difference is that Vegeta had more control over his own mind and did not allow Babidi to fully take over him. If you want more details on that, I did a video years ago that I'm super proud of called Majin Vegeta: A Deeper Look, where we really explained in that video like what was really going on with Majin Vegeta, because I think people missed that. So Kibito's dead again. No matter what timeline, he dies.
And you really got to give it to Shin here,
because he fights his ass off.
Well, he's just Shin was not trained that well. We all know that.
He sucks at his job.
A lot of people give him a lot of flack because he just doesn't know much. It's not necessarily, he is bad at his job, but it's not necessarily because he's not dedicated. It's because he's not educated. And this scene kind of like reflects that, because Old Kai says, "I'm willing to die to protect the mortals," So it shows his dedication. So despite the fact that he's like unprepared and uneducated and untrained due to the fact that Buu killed his master, this does like really show like his dedication to the mortals, which is cool.
And here we have Trunks for the first time, I believe, powering up to Super Saiyan 2. So we have Super Saiyan 2 Trunks, and something that I may do a video on this and I may not do a video on this, but I kind of one day wanted to compare Super Saiyan 2 Trunks here to Super Saiyan 2 Gohan and Z during this time period as well, because both of them fight Dabura, but the reason, and this is kind of me spoiling the video, but it's okay. I might make it into a video, I might not. It's one of those ideas that's like a maybe. We'll see actually if this gets adapted to the anime. But so the reason as to why Trunks does so much better against Dabura than Gohan does is because Trunks trained with the Z sword before the fight with Dabura. Gohan trained with it after.
Yep.
Training with the Z Sword gave Trunks an unspecified amount of a power boost. So Trunks' Super Saiyan 2 here was stronger than Gohan's in Z. I know some folks don't want to hear that, but it was, and it's very easy to explain that, you know. But you know how people are, Jordan. You can lead a horse to water. See, look at this. I just answered. I don't know if we're lagging, bro, because I am not calling
Probably
Trenton.
a little bit. Probably.
Yeah, I'm not calling Trenton slow, right? But I knew this question was coming, and that's why I prepared it. I prepared the answer already, which is yes. This Super Saiyan Trunks is way stronger than the Gohan that fought Dabura.
Yeah, another thing I really like about this scene is Bobity's implementation of magic. Like the way that he kind of like force chokes Shin and defends himself a little bit.
The dark
from him.
side.
Yeah, I think that's cool because we didn't really get to see him use his magic to defend himself much in the Buu saga. So actually getting to see him go on the defensive in terms of like using his magic to actually attack, I think that's pretty interesting. So.
Hold on, a couple things here. First of all, why can't the Trunks versus Dabura fight be made into a TV special? Maybe if you're stretching a movie, because there's not enough story to it, bro. It's one fight. It's one fight, bro. You can't make that into a movie. I mean, that's
and they wouldn't do that anyway.
No, they wouldn't. Now, again, like we talked about before, maybe we'll see it in the Super remake because that's their chance to put stuff like that in here. Trenton said, sorry, you don't have to apologize. I knew there was a lag coming. I only pointed it out because it was funny to me that you asked the question as I was explaining it. And then this right here, yes, Gohan was Super Saiyan 2 when he fought Dabura. He just wasn't as strong as he was in the Cell games.
Yep, that's right.
And Vegeta talks about it. His edge. It wasn't even so much his physical strength. It's that Gohan's edge was gone, bro. What made him a furious Saiyan warrior was leaving him. He became domesticated, Jordan.
He basically powered up into Super Saiyan 2 instead of having his classic awakenings where, you know, he gets like really pissed off and then his power skyrockets because he gets pissed off. They try to clarify like a difference between those two versions of Super and the Buu saga, which is interesting.
Yes, and also I want to repeat this, the fact that Dabura can manifest actual weapons, not just key weapons. We obviously see like Dabura, like we see Gas later on do something similar, but Dabura was the first one. Okay, I want to real quick comment on this from Vane.
Can I acknowledge this one?
Okay, go ahead. No, you can acknowledge any of them, bro. This is your show too.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to cut you off, but I do want to say something.
No, please cut me off.
So yes, the Trunks special is based on an entire manga chapter, extra manga chapter from Dragon Ball, but
it's not just 2 pages.
It's way longer than this fight, for one thing. I do understand what you're trying to say. You're basically saying that if they wanted to, they could expand the material and make it long enough to be a movie, which is true.
I agree with that.
But it's just not something they're going to do. This arc is very Trunks focused in comparison to the Android arc. And I know that sounds weird to say because, you know, Trunks was introduced in the Android saga and he had a big role in the Cell saga, but not near to the degree that he has in this saga. I know that's crazy to say, but like this saga is much more centered. That's part of the reason that they even had the Trunks special back then to begin with, is because they wanted to give Trunks more shine and you know, make sure everybody got to see him as a more prominent
and they wanted to tell that story.
Yeah, they wanted people to understand that he was a more prominent character in that arc, because in the anime, you know, he's involved and he's important, but his involvement is minimal in comparison to factoring in the special itself. So with that in mind, it's just very unlikely that they would ever make a second Trunks special, just because this arc is so Trunks centric. You know.
Well, I'll say this. The thing is, I don't disagree with Vane or anybody in the chat who thinks they should have made it into a special. I'm not against that idea. Like, Danny is not against that idea. But something you have to understand about current Dragon Ball versus Dragon Ball back then. When Dragon Ball Z was being made, we had the show every week in Japan. We had 2 movies a year, and we had multiple specials. Dragon Ball Super doesn't even have any specials. Like there's obviously like when they did 2 episodes that one time, but there's no Dragon Ball Super special. Should there have been? Yes. Jocko, the Galactic Patrolman, should have gotten a TV special. You could have done one for Universe 6. You could have done one here and done the aftermath. All that stuff is certainly an idea that they should do, but because there are no specials, that's what Jordan is saying. This era is just different than how it was during the Z era.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, this battle, I mean, this version of the battle in the manga, though, is raw. Like, I do like it way more than the anime. Trunks just blew his ass away with his burning attack. Goodbye, Dabura. See you later. So, this guy in the chat, where is it? Hold on. He said, yes, that's exactly what happened. Sank Seiya, he destroyed him. And the future was saved from Dabura.
And in this version of the events, Goku Black didn't have to assassinate Shin to kill Beerus. Beerus just dies due to the fact that Shin sacrificed himself, which is another change.
Yeah. And then here we get to the present time, and this is where they explain that the Kaioshin and the gods of destruction are linked together. So, and this is what they're trying to do, is figure out where Black came from. Why does he have knowledge of the gods? Obviously, the time ring, all of these things. Because we and the angels have a really high knowledge of how the universe works, the multiverse. And they're just trying to figure out, like, you know, what's going on. Which we all were trying to do back then. But, of course, you know, the anime revealed it first. Yeah. So we also find out that the time machine has to be recharged. So Trunks can't just use it over and over and over again, back to back. You have to recharge it. So that's interesting. We have this moment right here with Trunks that I found interesting. That the Mai thing, which is just weird to me. And then we go back to the future with Goku Black. And this is where he pretty much, like, first of all, he doesn't know what happened to Trunks. Because he never heard of the time machine.
Right.
So he's confused. And it says here, you know, that right here he reveals that the Zero Mortals plan was already in effect. The Lords of Lords from all other universes, that's the Kaioshin, have been terminated along with the gods of destruction. Even Trunks no longer exists in this world. So there's no one left to challenge me. And then he thinks that he got rid of all his opponents, but he's like, no, that's wrong. This isn't over. Never underestimate the persistence of a Saiyan. Well, also there's the Omni King, but the question is, and you and I talked about this a little bit a few weeks ago in Volume 1, where was the Omni King during this whole thing? Where was the Grand Priest? These are questions that aren't really answered. We could take guesses, though.
They're not really answered, but given the fact that they're so willing to erase universes, it just, you know, it's not hard to believe that they're just like, whatever happens, you know. It seems like, we'll get into it in a little bit, but it seems like Zeno and the Angels have a very standoffish attitude towards the mortals and the Kai, very similar to the Kai. But we'll talk about it when we get to Gowasu.
Yeah, and yeah, they might have been busy with other things, but it's still weird. I'm going to get to the super chat here in a minute, but once again here, they're trying to figure out what's going on with the future. They're talking about the future. And basically they're trying to investigate what's going on. So what they do is they end up heading on over to Universe 10? I think it was 10. And here we have Kibito fighting Zamasu. It wasn't revealed yet, but this is our first look at Zamasu in the manga. And this is where
I love his fighting style. Like, I love, like, the way that they have Zamasu fight. It's very, very. First of all, it reminds me a lot of what they did with Shin and the way he fights in Dragon Ball Daima, which I think they did on purpose. I think they had Shin fight similar to Zamasu on purpose in Dragon Ball Daima. They have very, very similar fighting styles. But yeah, it was really cool seeing the evil Kai go against the other Kai who originally looked down on mortals prior to Zamasu's existence. I thought that was pretty interesting and funny as well, because if you remember Kibito, they even make a joke about it. Like Kibito was like almost as bad as Zamasu at one point. Like he thought mortals were second class citizens. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's pretty interesting to see Zamasu and him fighting. But there's something else that happens in this fight. You can go ahead and go to the next page.
Okay, this is a Toriyama redraw,
Yeah.
but which they actually show at the end of the volume. Right here, these pages.
Yeah,
They're doing the Anakin Obi-Wan thing there in the upper left, bro. They're force pushing.
Yeah, I love that. I love how they make force pushing such a thing for the Glen. I think that's really cool.
This is a good fight, I thought. What would you want to talk about in this?
All right, go ahead and go to the next page.
Go to the next one. Okay.
So if you'll notice here, now in the previous arc, the Universe 6 versus Universe 7 arc, if you'll remember, Goku gave up against Hit, and then that caused Hit to become a good sport and give up against his opponent. The Goku effect, you know. Look at contrast Hit's attitude in battle and Goku's attitude in battle to Zamasu's here. Zamasu he has no mercy. As a matter of fact, Gowasu has to tell him to stop. It's interesting because right off the bat in this fight immediately, they show us that Zamasu's approach to martial arts and his approach to combat is not the same as Goku's. He's vicious. He's merciless to the point that like he was about to hurt Kibito and Gowasu had to stop him. And what's really interesting is one of the first things they say after he's stopped by Gowasu is they compliment Zamasu on how ridiculously good a fighter he is. And
that's right up here. I'm just showing it to people. Go ahead.
Yeah. Shin says he must be one of the most skilled fighters, even include all the Lords of Lords across the universes. So he's ridiculously good as a martial artist, and they tell him this constantly. Okay. Gowasu tells him this. Shin tells him this. Kibito is like humbled by being defeated by him. So this scene is essentially showing us that ever since Zamasu has been trained by the Kai, his ego is being stoked because he is a prodigy.
He's got talent.
Yeah. And so he thinks he's hot shit because he's got, Gowasu, Shin, Kibito, everybody telling him that he is. So, but anyway, Gowasu goes on to say he's good at fighting, but there's just something off about him, essentially. Like, he's too serious. Like, he's really, really good at combat specifically, but there's just something not right there that Gowasu feels that he needs to acknowledge. So,
yeah, and that's the foreshadowing in the anime. They had little tea leaves thing where they go dark, and they did it more artistic. Also, this is where we found out, because previously this had not been established, that when you are a Kaio-sama, like the guy who taught Goku how to do the Kaioken, you can evolve and get promoted to the status of Kaioshin, because Zamasu was a Kaio-sama at this point, trying to eventually become a Kaioshin. So the god hierarchy was already established, but Toriyama had not yet revealed up until now. It's not just you get put in a certain position and you stay there. You can be promoted, because Zamasu was on his way to being a Kaioshin. And I always found that interesting.
It's kind of suggested that Zamasu is like younger than a lot of the Glen, which is interesting.
Yeah,
but
and you can't tell because these guys are thousands of years old in some of the other cases.
Right. But with that in mind, his attitude makes a lot of sense. His lack of knowledge, very similar to Shin, makes a lot of sense. And it kind of seems like, and this has always been my interpretation of it, is that he was such a prodigy that they are essentially trying to move him up the corporate ladder as fast as humanly possible. And that's the reason he had that same type of position that King Kai had is because even though there was already a Supreme Kai, it would be kind of a waste to have somebody as talented as Zamasu not holding a position anywhere in the universe. So that's something else they kind of used to complement his the fact that he's a prodigy, is the fact that he was also a Kaio-sama. So
Yeah, no, and that's important. And actually, these panels here is where Zamasu first finds out about Goku, because he's first being told about they have a Saiyan who is very strong, and he doesn't understand the idea of a mortal being able to top on a god. He doesn't get that concept, but this is the beginning. Now
Zamasu is basically becoming what the heck is the bad guys from Terminator.
Skynet.
Yeah, that line right there is like the most Skynet line of all time.
Unnecessary beings should be terminated.
No, I am certain that what you did was the right decision. All unnecessary beings must be terminated. He even says terminated, bro.
Yeah.
Zamasu's going full Skynet. It's crazy.
His mentality is that he wants God. See, I actually like his development because he wants gods to remain the all-powerful, all-knowing beings of the multiverse. So when a mortal comes around who surpasses gods, he freaks out because that's a threat to his power. So one of the things that he decides, because you have to understand that Zamasu was a complete psycho also. He's narcissistic and he's a psychopath. He realizes that, and this is evidence of him being a psychopath, he realizes that when you have mortals hanging out with gods, like Goku hung out with Beerus and the Supreme Kais, it's almost like a slap in the face of Zamasu. It really isn't, but to him, they're so inferior. So instead of him trying to figure out a way to separate mortals and gods, he instead groups gods with mortals, saying, no, they all need to go because they don't even follow their own rules. I need to be the only one left. And that's where the Zero Mortals plan happened. He wanted to kill everyone. In his mind, the gods even hanging out with Goku was so criminal that he's like, fuck these guys, they betrayed themselves. Well, that's why he was evil.
Something very interesting about that is, again, taking into context that the Glen were not always gods. That's something that apparently Zamasu just doesn't know, which I find very, very interesting. They weren't always gods. They're literally demons. There's a lot of things that contextually change the story after Dragon Ball Daima in that sense, because, and another thing is, he is clearly jealous of the position of a god of destruction.
Yeah, because he wants to be one. He likes to destroy.
But one thing I find interesting is the fact that he never acknowledges that the gods of destruction are always mortals that are hired after being developed as mortals to become a god of destruction. So there's a system in place to essentially, welcome mortals in as gods if they put in the work and do the training. Glenn just so happened to be a different species who also earned that right in a different way to become a god. So there's a lot of flaws in Zamasu's logic.
Yeah, but he's holding on to his power. See, it's all about his power. He makes it seem like it's about the gods, but really it's about him.
Right.
So something else real quick, Beerus sneezing. There's a Japanese thing where if somebody's saying your name behind your back and you sneeze, that's like the energy. Like when somebody sneezes, it's like life telling them that someone's talking about them behind their back. Okay, we got to get these super chats here. We got 3 of them, and then we'll continue our review of the manga. Krishna says, what do you guys think Toyotaro does better than Toriyama, and what do you think Toriyama does better than Toyotaro? For Toyotaro, the answer is nothing. For Toriyama, the answer is everything. I say that jokingly, but I just don't think Toyotaro ever got on Toriyama's level, man. I'm just being honest. Do you have an answer?
I will say, I will be charitable, and I will say that I think Toyotaro's strength is his ability to remember and keep up with all the lore and string it together in a way that Toriyama is just not interested in doing.
That's fair. That's actually a fair compliment. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, because he tries to factor in as much, because he's such a fanboy. He studies all of this stuff so hard, and it's just Toriyama just kind of makes it up as he's going along and rereads it and tries to be as consistent as he can. But Toyotaro like memorizes this stuff, like
he's a fan.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a fan, bro, and he remembers it better than Toriyama does. No, you know what? That's fair. Now, what about Toriyama better than Toyotaro? I mean, that one.
Toriyama is Toyotaro's master, or he was his master and sensei for a reason. Like in every other regard, like he's better.
He's better than a lot of people. Toriyama.
Yeah, I mean. Like Toriyama's a high bar, very high bar.
Yeah, I agree with that. Viking Saiyan, do you guys think that we sent Trunks to the future of the main timeline, since there's already a version of Trunks in my there? No, the way it's specified, and we haven't gotten there yet in the manga, but is that he went to another timeline. Now, your idea wouldn't have been the worst idea. It may have actually been a better idea, but it's not all that different. I still feel like it would have been better if Trunks had stayed in the past, or in the present, I mean. And a lot of fans agree with me on that. But that's something that we will probably get more into when we near the end of this story arc. Do you have anything to add to that?
I think that Whis knew. I think Whis knew how the mechanics of the time machine worked by that point, and he just knew that they were going to copy his timeline, which we'll talk about it then. But essentially,
this is a good point.
The timeline had been erased, so it had existed prior to that. So it probably made Whis more comfortable with its existence. I would say the idea that it was erased by Zeno and it existed previously made him be like, well, as long as we take care of Zamasu and Goku Black, that timeline should be fine. But
yeah, and also one last thing about this whole time travel thing. This kind of conversation here where Zamasu finds out about Goku, and the reason as to why Zamasu knows about Goku is because Kaioshin went to Universe 10 to ask him about Goku Black, what's happening here, and I explained this when the anime was on. I may have to do an updated video about it, but I'll give you a quick brief rundown. That's a time loop. Because Zamasu has the time ring, he created an artificial time loop. Zamasu would have never known about Goku had Goku Black never gone into the past and brought Goku into the story for Zamasu, right? And Trunks too. For Zamasu to have even known who Goku was. So it's a complete time loop. Completely. Yeah. And when Beerus kills Zamasu, when Beerus Hakai'd Zamasu, he did break the time loop, but Goku Black still existed because of the time ring. I explained that in detail in a video way back when the anime was on the air. In fact, Funimation directly referenced my video when they were adding dialogue for Zamasu, because there's a scene in the dub where Goku Black is like, it's all because of the time ring. And I know for a fact they got that information from my video. Like, and that's not like bragging. I'm glad they did, because it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm glad you went back to this page, because I wanted to talk about something I had forgot.
Yeah.
You'll notice how Shin he specifies to Zamasu that Goku is a pure-hearted Saiyan from Earth. Now, there's a reason he brings up the fact that Goku is pure of heart, and that is because beings becoming pure of heart is the end goal of what the Kai are trying to accomplish for mortals. And it's really interesting because Zamasu just basically ignores that Shin says this in the future. Like, he basically just ignores that Goku is pure of heart and just kind of disregards it, because that's basically like Shin saying he's the type of mortal we are looking for. And Zamasu's just like, I don't care. Like he just completely overlooks it. It's very interesting. But I just wanted to point that out because he's not using that terminology for no reason. He's not just saying he's a pure-hearted Saiyan from Earth because it's a lore drop.
And because go ahead.
He's saying it because it's important within the context of the Glend. The
Glend
are trying to create pure-hearted beings.
And also because if he wasn't pure-hearted, then Zamasu might have an argument about hanging out with him. But another thing that adds to Zamasu being a complete psycho is that even if Goku is pure-hearted, he still does not like the fact that mortals are hanging out with gods. He still has an issue with it. And to me, that's like a big a key here. But actually, somebody in the chat brought up that the time ring is a Horcrux. I don't have enough Harry Potter knowledge. Like, I remember the Horcrux in the last couple of movies in the last book, but I do not have enough Harry Potter knowledge to compare the two. I'm just saying that the time ring allowed Goku Black to still exist despite Goku Black being killed, aka Zamasu being killed in a different timeline. So that's something that's very difficult for people to grasp. I want to say something real quick right now before we get back into these pages. If the time travel stuff confuses you, do not beat yourself up over it. Time travel stories very, very often can be mind fucks because you have to remember that just because an event took place in what is considered the past, because you're dealing with time space, the past can be affected by events in the future that tie in with the past, and the past can then change that event in the future.
Yeah, your brain folding in on itself, trying to comprehend all these things, which I love. I actually enjoy that because, like, you have to, like, do loops and logic and be like, whoa, what the heck? But, like, if you are interested in learning about this, okay,
there's a lot of resources.
Well, there's a particular book called The Time Stream that I read years ago in school, actually. It's one of the earliest books. It's one of the earliest books that plays on this concept. It's a very old book. It basically in detail explains why it works this way using like science. So if you're actually like interested in learning how exactly it works, because in the anime, they don't say this in the manga, but in the anime, Beerus does just blatantly say that, they're going by that the time stream is what is changed by events in time, meaning that Dragon Ball uses time stream theory. Time stream theory is a specific theory of time travel that came from science fiction that's used in a lot of media today. So if you're interested in learning about that, you can just go find the original book that kind of like established the concept. So,
and an example of time travel being a mindfuck is that if we look at the MCU, for example, just briefly, at the end of Loki Season 1, when all hell breaks loose and the sacred timeline splinters off and there's all these other timelines, those other timelines that splintered off is what created the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield universes. But you're going to sit there and say, but wait a minute, Danny, that's bullshit because those movies came out back in the 2000s. Loki was in the 2010s. How does that make any sense if those movies already have been out? That's what's tricky. You have to think about it fourth dimensionally. Within the span of Loki, when the timeline split, and this is a mind fuck for some people. I don't blame you for getting confused. Whenever there's a split timeline or something that ends up changing the timeline in any time travel story, that changes the root of everything. Therefore, time no longer is linear at that point. Therefore, and this is going to sound weird, but the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield timelines always existed after it's split, even though it's in the past. So again, I know this is a mind fuck.
It makes the time machine more of a multiverse generator than a time machine.
Especially for Dragon Ball.
Yeah, it generates parallel universes. That's it.
Right.
It seems like time travel because it is time travel in some
It
sense.
is.
But what it's actually doing is it's actually just generating a new timeline or a new universe or a new dimension with a new set of events. So it's different in that sense.
Yeah, I'm just saying that because I can understand people being confused. I really can. But you have to, whenever you're thinking about time travel, you have to think about it like from a, you have to basically separate yourself from the time stream and realize that like it's not linear, especially in these fictional stories. Now we have a couple super chats I want to get through, then we're gonna keep going with the manga. Gabby says, is there a way to get all of DBZ and GT color corrected but in 1080p? I know Neo Raws did some apps, so I hope they'll do the entire series. I'd upscale them myself, but I don't know shit about upscaling. In 1080p, the answer is no. Not all of those. Not currently, although there may be some fan groups out there. I know there's some smaller ones that did try it. I can tell you that the Neo Raws are probably going to end up being the best one, so but you got to be patient for it. Dragon Ball, OG Dragon Ball is color corrected to 1080p, but I can't tell you where to get that because it's from a group that no longer exists. So, and also one last thing, if you want to learn about upscaling, just you can learn about it. Like, I know you say you don't know how to do it, but you can learn. Krishna, the new Super remake would be more in line with the manga, but what aspects of the anime would you like to see return to the remake that's different from manga? So, this is a question that I think is better suited for that upcoming Super Magic Show episode. But Jordan's here.
I do have one event that I would
Well, you
like
go for it. I got a couple.
So particularly in this arc, okay, I'm not going to bring up a bunch, but in this arc, I do think that Goku not traveling to meet Zamasu is a mistake.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
That's one of my favorite scenes in the anime, and I'll tell you why. Because it establishes something very interesting about Zamasu in a way that I think is more poignant than what happens here. So in the anime, very similar to the scene that we're getting ready to see in the manga, there's a scene where Zamasu is looking down at the Barbary, and he's like, how are these vicious barbaric creatures ever going to find enlightenment, right? And he basically kind of like uses the mortals the Barbary as an example of why he doesn't like the mortals, which he does in the manga too. But in the anime,
we're actually on that page.
Goku literally shows up wearing a gi that says enlightenment on it. Okay, like Zamasu literally is like, when are the mortals ever going to find enlightenment? And then an enlightened being who's wearing a gi that says enlightenment shows up and challenges him to a martial arts match. But because Zamasu is so egotistical and he has such a flawed understanding of what moral development is and what the goal of the gods is, he just completely doesn't recognize that Goku essentially like it's like Gowasu introducing Zamasu to two ends of the spectrum. The end of the spectrum of the of mortals that that they don't want they don't want the mortals to end up like the Barbary. They don't want them to be these barbaric, destructive creatures. They want them to be like Goku. They want them to take their destructive nature and use it for sports and for pure-hearted purposes. So and that's something that Zamasu just completely overlooks in that scene. And
because he's a psycho.
Yeah, and I think and that scene to me has always been very, very interesting and just over the top in terms of just like pushing the narrative purpose of the arc, out there to where you can kind of understand a bit more what they're trying to communicate. Not that the manga doesn't do a good job in some sense as well. I just think Goku literally showing up with a gi that says enlightenment on it after Zamasu says that the mortals will never attain enlightenment. I just think that's funny and interesting and creative on the part of the anime staff and Toriyama. So,
I'll tell you one from this arc too, but I'm going to add an asterisk to it. I want them to keep Trunks' Ikari form because that was a great scene, but I want explanations on what it is. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Keep the scene, but give us at least some nugget of information to explain where it came from. The Emery 223 says, "Do you feel the DBS manga flows better narratively than the anime? I feel Toyotaro was low key refining the DBS anime throughout the manga. I think he definitely was refining the anime during this time period for sure. As far as it flowing better, I don't know about that. I think it just depends. I will say that there are some parts that definitely do. There are parts that definitely flow better, especially how me and Jordan are kind of sort of binging it here, doing a volume every show.
Yeah.
But those are my thoughts. What do you think?
I think the early arcs, no. I think the early arcs are way too summarized. They overlook a lot of things that I find important from Battle of Gods, and or they don't even do ROF, and the stuff that I find important from Universe 6 and Universe 7. But there are things that they expand on better, in my opinion, on the Universe 6 versus Universe 7 arc. Particularly the Vegeta versus Kaba fight, I think, was expanded on better in the manga. I think the flow was better in some parts, but for the most part, I think because it's a manga, it just kind of seems summarized in comparison, and sometimes that can seem good and it makes the flow better, but sometimes not. I think particularly within the context of the Tournament of Power, trying to adopt something that's meant for an animated format like Tournament of Power, because the Tournament of Power was clearly created with the intention of having it animated and then having it put into manga form. It's very, very hard to pace that correctly. I mean, I don't even think they paced the TOP anime that well. I think there was a lot of episodes that they
remember, 10 minutes was like 15 episodes. Let's not forget
I
that
know,
little.
I know. Yeah.
That was a bitch.
It's hit and miss, man. It's hit and miss. I think sometimes Toyotaro does a better job at summarizing and pushing the narrative, and then sometimes he doesn't include enough events. I think sometimes the anime does a better job. I don't have like a definitive. I have a nuanced.
Me too. Because it's true. Sometimes the anime version's better. Sometimes the manga version is better. It's very, very nuanced. There are some people that are like, no, the manga's objectively better. No, the anime's better. And I see people say like, well, the anime's better until the TOP. And again, or the manga's better until the TOP. It's subjective. That's totally subjective.
Yeah.
How are y'all remaining? Hope y'all are remaining blessed. This is from Zacharific. What would y'all do if you stealed Kakarot's body? Would you keep it? Wild question, I know. I'd probably try to fuck Chi-Chi. What about you?
I mean, I don't know.
And teleport around the universe.
I would definitely probably. It'd be tempting to. I don't know if I would, because I'd probably feel guilty about Goku not having his body. So I don't know. Realistically, it would be tempting to keep it, but if I had I would miss my own body as well. So I don't know. It's an interesting.
He probably has a bigger dick than me, so I'll keep his body. That's a good.
Yeah, I like who I am. Being Goku would be cool. Having his powers would be cool, but it's a big change up from Jordan. So I'm not so sure.
It is. I want to address this. Viking Saiyan says Dragon Ball can fix everything if they acknowledge the issue and make fun of themselves, breaking the fourth wall for once in the anime, the manga. Well, they've done that before with things like Dr. Slump. If you watch or read other Toriyama works, you'll see that. But I want to make something clear to you. That does not mean that it would fix the issue. Toriyama absolutely addresses when he's being silly, and he's very self-aware of his shortcomings as a writer, but he does make fun of himself all the time. I mean, Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, isn't that redundant? Yes, that's the point. Dragon Ball Super Hero, isn't that redundant? Yes, that's the point. Why is his name Granola? That's a dumb name. Every character's named after food. It's like people forget that this is how it's always been. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that Toriyama does that all the time. Cody Wood, if Trunks' timeline was the OG and it gets erased, does present timeline become the new OG? Also, how many rings were made during the Cell Saga? 4 were. There was one already there, and then 3 were made during the Cell Saga. As far as does a different timeline become the new OG? I don't think it works that way. I don't think the timeline just
No,
shifts
well,
over.
the narrative follows a new timeline, but in terms of it being the original timeline, no, the original timeline is always going to be the original timeline.
Yeah, even if it's destroyed.
Yeah, even if it's destroyed, all the mortals are wiped from it, whatever. Whatever timeline comes first is the timeline that came first. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Now, in terms of like the narrative following, the Goku that we're following right now, this is something that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to this arc, because it is kind of hard to keep track of everything. But the Goku that we're following right now, and that is not the same Goku that we just saw defeat Hit. That Goku gets his body stolen right after he defeats Hit. Goku Black is the Goku that we just saw defeat Hit in the last episode of the Mangalorian. So that Goku dies. The Goku that just defeated Hit and fought in the Universe 6 versus Universe 7 tournament, he's the one that's killed by Zamasu. And that timeline that we were following in that chapter is the timeline that Goku Black comes from. We are no longer following that timeline. So it moves. The narrative moves from one timeline to the next and follows a different Goku. But in terms of it being like the new,
you're gonna confuse them, bro. Not your fault. Not your fault.
Well, I'm just telling you. What happened. You know
this is very much like the Spider-Man thing. But wait a minute, the Toby movies came out first. Yes, in Dragon Ball Super, we start this arc with Trunks going back in time to meet Goku and talk to him again and tell him about Goku Black. But what we don't see is that when Zamasu took over Goku and went to the future timeline, he started a chain of events that would lead to Trunks going back, talking to Goku, Goku talking to Kaioshin, Kaioshin talking to Zamasu, and creating Goku Black. That's why it's a loop. That's why it's a loop. Huh?
I'll simplify this, okay? Because most of you...
I like talking about this.
Most of you understand the Cell Saga very well. You understand it very easily.
You sure?
You understand that Goku died of the heart virus, and then when Trunks traveled to a new timeline that brought Goku back, it brought a version of Goku back that didn't die from the heart virus, okay?
It's a totally different timeline.
That Goku that Trunks brought back, that didn't have the heart virus, that Trunks saved, becomes Goku Black. And then think of Goku.
Then the loop happens.
Yeah, think of Goku becoming Goku Black as a very similar event to Goku getting the heart virus. Okay, it's almost like Goku dying. And then what happens is Trunks creates another timeline with another new Goku, very similar to what he did in the Cell Saga. Okay, he creates another timeline with another Goku and stops this Goku from being taken over by Goku Black. Goku Black is almost like the heart virus. Like it's something that Trunks is.
It's a negative fate for Goku.
Yeah, that he's preventing as a side effect of creating this new timeline. So.
But because there's a loop, the new timeline had to be created in order for the first timeline to be affected by Goku Black. Yes, right. It's a mind fuck. Listen, the only way to truly understand this, and I'm just gonna say it, and I'm not talking about the chat. I'm talking about human beings here, okay? Human beings here. Some people are not capable of understanding this, and I'm not going to make fun of them. It is a mindfuck, okay? But you have to analyze it by separating yourself and looking at things objectively and looking at the time, at how time-space works and understanding that it's... I mean... There's a reason why time travel is not possible in the real world, at least not to the past, and it's because of time loops and things like that. So, anyways, I hope that was...
that's a good point. So, in the anime, when they show Zamasu steal Goku's body, if you'll notice, Goten and Chi-Chi are there. And
he
that
kills
is an
them.
indicator. Yeah, and that is an indicator that that Goku Black stole the body of the new Goku that Trunks made from Z, and then Trunks made a new one when he used the time machine again in Dragon Ball Super. So it's the same thing that happened in Dragon Ball Z. It's just it's a happening again in Dragon Ball Super, and there's a whole new Goku, and
Except for the time loop. The time loop is new because there was no loop in the original. All right, King Nick. I prefer DBZ's version of timelines created pseudo universes. For example, Trunks' timeline continues existing regardless of time travel. Yeah, the multiverse theory, but not multiverse with the 12 universes. Just that he says Back to the Future where Marty's timeline completely changed. Or verses. Yeah, I mean, look, I like both versions of time travel in fiction, and I can watch stories that utilize both versions. I don't know if I have one that I prefer more than the other one, but when it's done well, it can provide a nice, interesting, thought-provoking story. Do you have any thoughts?
Pseudo-universes, I would just call it time stream theory. I mean, it is. They're not fake universes. They're copies of the universes. So pseudo universes is a weird term to use because they're not fake. They're just copies of the previous.
I know what he meant, but there might be a better word for it. Yeah. Alternate timelines. What it's called in the Daizenshu's. It's called alternate timeline. So. Like in the guidebooks. I'm just letting them know. Bob Zor said, hold the fuck up. And he said, but that timeline didn't have Goten and shit. Huh?
Yeah. I did want to acknowledge is you're right about there not being a time loop in Dragon Ball Z, but there almost was one. Because when Trunks goes back at the end of the Cell saga, Cell was expecting to be able to kill Trunks
and go back and do a loop. Yeah,
and if he did that, there would have been a time loop. But because Trunks went stronger, became stronger, and went back and killed Cell,
he killed him. Right. Yeah. Because then that would have created. It would have been a different kind of loop. But yeah. Where's the video, Danny? Where's the video? Okay, I'll show you. I'm actually going to show you where the video is, bro. Since you need help finding it, watch how easy it is. Watch. You ready for this? Time travel explain. Watch what happens. What? 9 years ago, Dragon Ball Z time travel explained. Where's the video, Danny? Imagine how much time people would save if they actually looked. And look right here. Dragon Ball Super Time Paradox, Zamasu's Time Loop Explained.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite videos from you back in the day because I remember when Toei put the actual chart out that like explained how the time travel worked, and you covered that on your YouTube channel. That was awesome.
I covered it before they did. Yeah, and that was something I had to think about. But yeah. Anyways, back to the manga where we were talking about it. So here's the scene with the Barbaries.
All right, now go back. We gotta pay close attention to this. So go to go to the left or go back left a page. Turn page one time.
Here?
Okay. No, forward, not back. My bad.
Here.
Yeah. Go to the top right. Go to the top right.
Okay.
And then go down. It says, well, your martial arts are definitely at their peak. And then Zamasu says, I appreciate your kind words. And then Gawasu says, it's time for the next step. We must polish what's inside you. Now, I wanted to expand on this a little bit because, remember, the Kai were originally Glen. And the process that they have to go through to become Kai is essentially the same process that the mortals are being put through by the Kai and by the Guardians and all of these other characters. So Zamasu has to go through his own form of development. And the form of development that he has to go through is the same type of development that they're... Essentially, this is the series kind of, in a sense, explaining mortal development to us. Now, in terms of mortal development, something I want you guys to always think about when you think about mortal development, because the series prior to Dragon Ball Super actually gave us an example of what mortal development is. It's just a lot of people overlook it. So, if you remember, when the Nameless Namekian wanted to become Kami. What did he have to do?
Expel the evil.
He had to purify himself of all of his evil to become a god. Okay? Now, Goku also, at the end of the original King Piccolo arc, whenever Kami brings the Dragon Balls back, he tells Goku that as long as mortals like Goku exist, he thinks that the Dragon Balls exist because in his purview, in his idea of like what the perfect mortal is, Kami's opinion of what the perfect mortal is Goku. And that's the narrative reinforcing this idea that Goku is the pure-hearted mortal. He's basically like the center of the entire narrative and the entire plot. So that's very important to remember going into this arc, because I do think that this arc is very Trunks-centric, but this arc is also very, very Goku-centric. And that's something that a lot of people overlook, is that this arc is still centered around Goku in some sense, but it's centered around Goku within the context of moral development and Goku essentially being the ideal mortal.
And yeah, because that's, and to add to what you just said, that's why Zamasu takes over Goku's body, because he's like, I'm gonna take what you think is the best and I'm gonna pollute it. That's what this whole thing is about. He is polluting Goku by being Goku Black. And I actually like that a lot, because the idea of an evil Goku to me is stupid, because Goku would never turn evil. But it's not Goku turning evil, it's somebody using Goku's body, which we already saw Captain Ginyu do, but on a different level.
But Zamasu does represent all of the evil character traits that Goku doesn't have as a side effect of his purity. Like his egotistical approach, and something else we're going to see here in a second. They make that they really make that obvious here in a few minutes whenever Zamasu goes to visit the Barbary. But we'll talk about that when we get there.
I just answered this question like a minute ago. Why Zamasu picked Goku's body? It's more than just power. Okay, so now once again Zamasu's learning about lesser life forms. And Zamasu wants to terminate them. But Goasu's telling him that this is not, that he needs to wait and see how they develop. Because they're still, especially the Barbarians, they're very primitive. They're very, very primitive. And he says, don't rush to conclusions. Don't rush to judgment. And that's why Zamasu would not make a good god. So now we have the introduction of the time rings. And here we have 4 time rings. And then the 5th one is the special time ring. The 4 time rings represent the 4 timelines. Now, when this was first coming out, the idea was that the 4 timelines only existed in Universe 7. But that's not the case. When Trunks went back in time and Cell went back in time in Dragon Ball Z to create the different timelines that we now have even to this day, that did not just splinter off Universe 7. That splintered off the entirety of existence. That means that the future Trunks and Cell timelines have the Demon Realm, their own version of it, their own version of Jiren, their own version of Hit. Everything that we see in the main multiverse exists in the other timelines as well. There may be variations depending on what happens, but there you go. So I didn't know that at first. That had to be explained as the series progressed. All right, here we go. Chapter 17, Zamas, the next Lord of Lords. This is more about the Barbarians.
Go back one page real quick. That scene right there with the Barbary dragging the fish. Can anybody in the chat tell me what that's in reference to?
That's easy, bro. They better tell you.
Can anybody in the chat? This is a pop quiz.
That's easy, bro. Every single
in that in the chat, tell me what this is referencing here. I'm gonna congratulate the first person that does it. Oh, okay. Well, we got 3 people that. Oh, everybody knows. Okay,
yeah. That's what I'm saying. That one wasn't that difficult.
They even drew the road like
Similar.
how Bulma. You remember when Bulma was coming around in the car? They even drew it to look like the original Dragon Ball, but like there's a reason they're doing this. They're trying to make a connection between
Yes.
Goku's barbaric
Yes.
nature
Yep.
and the Barbary. This is very, very important.
And it's an example of how somebody can start off as Neanderthal and smarten up.
Yeah. So, the Barbary. This is something a lot of people overlook about the Barbary, is that the Barbary are a stand-in for the Saiyans, because you
Yes.
have to remember.
Yes,
You
they
have to
are.
remember. You
Yes,
have to
they are.
remember. The Barbary were, or the Saiyans were barbarians. They were
That's a
literally
fact.
like
They just
were
had technology.
Yeah, they were just more humanoid. So the Barbary are a stand-in for Goku, specifically prior to his development into the pure-hearted Saiyan that he is now, which Shin mentions. This is what the Saiyans were like prior to going through moral development and becoming pure of heart. That's what the Barbary are essentially supposed to represent. You don't want to bring the Saiyans back for that.
I was gonna say the
Yeah.
Saiyans never got the opportunity to do that, but Goku did because of the environment being raised on Earth.
Right. So that's something I really appreciate about Toyotaro here, is him using this like imagery to show us that he's trying to reference, the Saiyans here, which I think is cool.
Yes, everything you're saying, I'm in agreement with because it's true. Okay, we got to speed this along because we're only on page 50 out of 248. So, long story short, they're using the time ring to travel through time to look at how the Barbary, and they're basically, now this is where they once again reiterate that going back in time is a bad idea. And he says, look at the rings at the top. These are the other worlds created when history was rewritten. So originally, that box only had one ring. But because the rings are tied into the multiverse, anytime that somebody would fuck around with time travel, it would manifest a new ring. And that's why there's 5 there now, because there used to be just one. And then right here, everything that we're talking about is explained right here in these 2 pages, where he says these are for traveling those so-called parallel universes, aka alternate timelines. Never expect there to be so many parallel universes. A long time ago. Now, this is something that was not in the anime that to this day is still a mystery. And as Dragon Ball fans, this stream is live on March 24th, 2026. So if you're watching this in the future and it was explained, good. Because right now in the present, see, we're doing time shit. We're doing time stuff right now on the stream. Right now in the present, as we record this, all we know is this, that there was a mortal from Universe 12 that was able to create a time machine, and it happened, and that was the first time a parallel world was made. That is not in the anime version at all. There's no mention of that. We do not know if that was a Toriyama thing or a Toyotaro thing. It's just never been mentioned.
I would say it was probably a Toriyama thing, because Toyotaro has said that he tries to avoid doing like major implication-based narrative storytelling because he considers Akira Toriyama the lore master. So I could totally see that being a Toriyama thing for sure.
And that's something that we don't know anything about. By the way, there's 660 people watching us live right now across YouTube and X. If you're watching us on X, check out the YouTube channels, Geekdom 101 and Jordan the Dragon Lee. That's where our content rests at. So, yeah. Anyways.
All right, let's move on.
They're talking about fusion. Now they're going to the future. Now, here's the thing. So they go into the future and the Barbary are still a mess. Because not every species evolves.
They are a victim to their barbaric, animalistic nature. And what's very interesting about this, now this is the scene I wanted to talk about here. I'll briefly get through it because it is very important. Now, when you see this face that Zamasu makes after he kills the Barbary, okay?
This one?
Yes, that is very, very important. Now, I want you guys to just stop thinking about Dragon Ball Super. Not that one. Go back. It's the one where he shows the face that he's actually enjoying. He enjoyed
This one, bro, when he cut
Yeah,
the guy in
yeah.
half. Yeah, that was awesome. Evil.
That face right there. Yeah. So what's happening there? Okay, stop thinking about Dragon Ball Super for a minute, and I want you to go all the way back to Dragon Ball Z. Okay, when Raditz first shows up and faces Goku, he tells Goku, he says, "I want you to go kill 100 Earthlings, because if you go kill 100 Earthlings, you will develop a taste for bloodlust, and you will start to enjoy killing Earthlings."
But Jordan, Raditz is a good guy. I want him to come back to life and take care of Gohan. I want Uncle Raditz. Can we have
So
that?
this is Zamasu becoming and he is essentially becoming corrupted by the same enjoyment of murdering and killing and violence that Raditz was trying to encourage Goku to develop so he could become like the old school Saiyan.
An asshole.
So this is Zamasu ironically giving into the same part of his nature that he is judging the Barbary for being dominated by. That's what's so interesting about this, because the reason the Barbary are so violent is because they live in a survival of the fittest system. They live in a system where you have to kill each other to survive. If that's just the law of the universe. Like sometimes war and things of that nature happen for the sake of survival. And Zamasu was attacked by the Barbary. He was, the Barbary was going to kill him, but and in some sense he would be justified in defending himself. But the problem is that Zamasu enjoyed killing the Barbary. He gets pleasure from killing the Barbary, and so he's essentially,
which means he's not a good guy.
He's developing the same love for violence that the Saiyans have, except his is much darker because he doesn't have that biological aspect that the Saiyans have in terms of just their love of combat in general. He is a Glend who turned into a Kai, so there is like a demonic aspect to his character, but he's not a member of a battle race. Like
he's
Saiyans.
almost like a Makaio Shin. Yeah. Remember, those were born bad, so yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, go ahead.
So
there's a lot of dialogue here.
Have a lot of text, but I'll try to summarize this as much as I can, so that way we don't spend too much time on it. But the main thing the main lines here that
it's their debate about the importance of mortals and why they should be around.
Well, the page on the left, if you'll zoom into that, because there is a few things that he says towards the bottom there that I want to talk about.
Right here.
Go down a little bit more.
Okay. Here.
Yeah. So our purpose, of course, is to maintain peace. If there's a planet that becomes devoid of peace and disturbs the balance of the universe, we must think of a way that they can fix it themselves. Now, that line right there is very, very important, because it's a callback to what Kami said to Goku in the original Dragon Ball. Kami said that he believed that the mortals should fix their own problems, and that part of what he wanted to do as Kami and as God was to help develop the mortals to the point that they could take care of themselves. That was part of his goal as Kami. So this is a callback to, again, what they established as mortal development back in the original Dragon Ball as well. Now, if you'll go down a little bit, Danny.
Right here?
Listen, right here. Listen well, Zamos. Although I acknowledge your sense of justice, having too much of it is no different than fastidiousness. Yeah, that's it. And it will bring you nothing but frailty. Know that tolerance is what leads us on the path of peace. Now, the reason that this line is so important is because this is Goku's philosophy. Okay? This is something I've talked about quite a bit on my channel. Goku, by accident, because he's pure of heart, follows the same sort of rules and the same sort of philosophy that the Kai are encouraged to follow. And that's what makes the dynamic between Goku and Shin so interesting, is that Zamasu is becoming more like a Saiyan, and Goku, through having a pure heart and being raised on Earth, has become more akin to the Kai. and more akin to what Zamasu is supposed to be becoming through his training. He's supposed to be purifying himself of evil and becoming pure of heart like Goku, but he's failing at that, and instead he's developing to become something more akin to a Saiyan. So that's very, very important here, because when Gowasu talks about how, tolerance is what leads us onto the path of peace, what he's basically saying is you're not supposed to enjoy destroying the mortals. You're not supposed to enjoy, enforcing your rules or having this godly position and smiting mortals. You're supposed to allow them to experience things so they can develop. That's essentially what he's saying. He's saying your sense of justice is strong and it's understandable, but if your sense of justice is indulged in too much, you're just going to wipe out all the mortals, and then they'll never have a chance to develop into something greater than what they are. So
and just to clarify, fastidiousness, the definition of it is basically being very meticulous, almost like a perfectionist. And what Zamasu's trying to learn, or what Gowasu wants to teach Zamasu, is that you can't be like that, because these are mortals that are going to be imperfect.
Yep, that's right.
That's just how they are.
Yep.
It is similar. It's actually kind of deep, because it is like a lot of other real world religions. Like a lot of the real religions that we have in our world deal with the fact that human beings have issues. In fact, almost all of them do. That we know that we all are fucked up in one way or another.
Specifically, the Chinese Taoist gods are exactly like this. Like that. This is literally the Chinese Taoist gods literally exist in
this is
heaven.
Dragon Ball.
They literally exist in like a heaven where they watch over mortals and hope that they develop into something akin to them. It's the exact same thing. So, yeah,
definitely. All right. And then again, this is more of Zamasu basically not agreeing with that mentality.
Yeah. Can you go up and zoom in on that part? I just want to read it. I'm sorry. This is
right.
Yeah, zoom in.
Okay.
On it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
So, but be warned, you must never grow arrogant. It will only cause your own demise. It is not combat skill that makes you a Lord of Lords, but a calm mind and a gentle soul. Do you understand?
That is not him.
That's Goku. Yeah, that's what's so interesting about it. And we go down a little bit.
Go down. Okay.
Yeah.
Here?
You must see that as an effort to balance the heart. Now, that is the most important line to me there. Is the idea that the Glend and the Kai have to put in constant effort to achieve a pure and balanced heart. And that's essentially what Zamasu is failing at here. Zamasu's failing at a couple things. He's still pure of heart, which is something we'll talk about more, but he's pure of heart within a different context. He's pure of heart within the context that he is purely dedicated to his own perception of morality. He is purely dedicated to his own perception of reality, sort of like Vegeta. Back whenever Vegeta became a Super Saiyan and Vegeta was like, I am pure evil, that's essentially what Zamasu is. Zamasu is very, very Vegeta-like in the sense that he believes in his ideas to the utmost purity, okay? And that's essentially the issue with Zamasu, is that because his purity comes from his ideas and not from the same sort of openness that Zamasu is trying to encourage and that Goku encourages as well, his purity is flawed and corrupted, and it's the reason he ends up becoming a villain very akin to Vegeta. So,
right. Culture rep. This is Dragon Ball, bro. Not no Chinese god shit. I think you need to go back and either watch Dragon Ball X Saiyuki playlist on my channel or watch the Mangalorian, because you don't know what you're talking about.
Bro. I've got news for you, bro. The Chinese gods all become gods through ki, exactly like Dragon Ball. That's where this comes from.
All of this comes from that.
Dragon Ball took from Chinese mythology to create its story. This is Chinese mythology.
That's why I told him he's got to check out Saiyuki, the Saiyuki videos.
The Chinese gods became gods through cultivating their life energy and developing godlike abilities and skills and strength. That's literally that's what Sun Wukong was. He was a Chinese deity who was born with a massive amount of energy, cultivated that energy, and became something more powerful. This is a concept within martial arts and within Chinese mythology that Dragon Ball is deriving its plot and its story from. So yes, this is Chinese Shi, as you say.
Yeah, yeah. Here we have the awesome Mario Kart go-kart pages that I loved. This was a lot of fun to read when it first dropped. Nothing really to break down here. It's just an awesome. I kind of wish they did something like this in the anime. It doesn't have to be exactly like that, but something like it. I do like how on the leaderboard you have both versions of Trunks. That's enjoyable. We're going back and forth from Universe 10, the future, the past, everything. Vegeta and Goku training up, and then here's the introduction of God Tube, because what happens is Zamasu wants to learn more about Goku, so he's going back and watching that Universe 6 fight with Hit, which helped make Zamasu hate Goku even more.
Yeah,
and
this is further confirmation, by the way, that Zamasu stole Goku's body after the Universe 6 versus Universe 7 tournament. Because we're essentially seeing the events that played out prior to Goku Black playing out again in a time loop here. So this already happened with Goku Black. This is how Zamasu found out who Goku was, and this is also when Zamasu decided to steal Goku's body is whenever he saw him on God Tube. And the idea of there being a God Tube is also really funny to me as well.
I've loved it. I love it so much.
But what I find interesting about this scene, it's a very, very similar scene to the scene where Goku goes to fight Zamasu in the anime, but it's kind of glanced over in comparison. Because all Zamasu focuses on here is the fact that Goku is so powerful. He doesn't look at Goku's ethics. He doesn't look at Goku's approach. He doesn't look at how Goku composes himself as a being. He just notices that he's more powerful than him, and it pisses him off. So this is a very, very similar scene to that scene in the anime where, Zamasu and Goku meet, except it's not as on the nose, in my opinion. But I do like it. I do like, that this is the reason that Zamasu discovered Goku, and that this is the reason for the time loop and all that stuff. I do like it. I do.
Yeah, and Gowasu telling him his name is Son Goku instead of him actually meeting Goku. That is that's different, and he does his homework, so it's less personal than what they did in the anime version. Let me get some.
Megan Hassan, the only thing you're missing is that later on Zamasu goes to learn everything about Goku from Zeno. So his hatred for Goku doesn't just come from the tournament. He also finds out that he only exists because Trunks time traveled. He finds out a bunch of details about Goku, and he comes to the conclusion that he still finds him a nuisance. So,
okay.
Yeah,
well, no, we got super chats here. Zacharific said, "I was having a blast with the Twitch streams. You had me crying with your humor. Keep going." Yes, every Saturday at 1 p.m. we watch Dragon Ball. Right now we're on Z. Thank you so much for being there. I already addressed this from Bob earlier. Krishna says, "Man, this arc had such deep and wonderful ideas, and Zamasu's interesting and well-developed villain. Then they went ahead and fumbled it." Yeah, the ending of this arc, I'm not a big fan of. We'll get there. We will get there and talk more about it when that time comes. Joshua says, Future Trunks face the embodiment of deception. Goku Black, I mean, it's more so that Zamasu was trying to prove a point while also, going to the extreme about it. There's just a lot of narcissism there, especially when it comes to killing everyone in the multiverse. He says, Kai's supposed to be benevolent until Zamasu. Well,
Not necessarily, because Toriyama already gave an interview, which has been retconned and contradicted now with the Glenn.
With
but
Daima.
he gave an interview years ago saying that not all the Kai were good. They had to be tested for purity of heart, and if they failed, they were sent to become a Kaioshin. So they're not all benevolent.
No, again, they're not, and but most of them are. But yeah, some are. So they call it bad fruit. The fruit from the Shinjin tree comes out bad. So yeah, it's true. Yeah. And then he says, and a Goku alive in the future and killing people. I think you mean Goku Black. Maybe that was earlier though, because I'm not sure. Because that super chat was from earlier when we were having a different conversation. Random hero, much love from Ireland. Thanks for the information. Fun streams. You add to the series for a viewer like me more than can be expressed in 150 characters. Well then, pay more. No, I'm kidding. Thank you so much for the kind words. That's why I'm here. And Jordan as well. And then Gabby says, Jordan, have you seen the Nizam movies? You probably like them since they're very focused on Chinese culture and mythology. Those sound familiar.
Yeah, Neza is a character in Journey to the West. Yeah, of course.
Have we watched those in the server?
No, we haven't watched them, but they are good movies.
Oh, I just looked it up. Didn't one of them come out like last year?
Yeah. Yeah,
these are new.
Yeah, they've made, well, there's older ones.
They've made two of them, is what it says, right? Or two of the animated ones, right? Oh, shit. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just looking here at because that sounded so familiar, but yeah. Yes, they did make that. Yes, I know my camera froze because I opened up a different window. We've been through that already, bro. That happens. All right. Back to the manga. So,
we see Trunks and Vegeta train together in
the gravity room.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep, and this is not in the forest like it was in the anime. The anime showed grade 2 Trunks again, and we have that awesome scene where Trunks is like, Goku can become Super Saiyan 3, and then Vegeta laughs at him and goes into blue. I always thought that was a funny scene just because of the way that Vegeta laughs at him. Like, you'd think Super Saiyan 3 is all that great. It ain't like I'm ever going to use. That's what Vegeta told him, bro. I'll never need to use that form. So now they're discussing with the Supreme Kai about Kais that hate mortals. And they're like, oh, is Kibito Goku Black? Because shit is an idiot. And then they're trying to basically unravel the puzzle of who Goku Black is.
Yeah.
And Whis doesn't really know, even though he knows almost everything. So the Grand Priest reaches out to Whis. So we're about to be introduced to yet another new god in the god hierarchy. Which, by the way, those of you who have questions about the god hierarchy, there are 3 videos that I have had done that are going to go up later this year in the cosmology guide. I have one about the Kais. I'm sorry, 4 videos. One about the Kais, one about the Glins, one about the gods of destruction, and one about the angels. All 4 of those rankings are going to get broken down in a series of videos, one after another. That's coming out later this year. So stay tuned for that, because that's part of the cosmology guide. They've already been recorded and half have been edited. So just keep an eye on that. I'll give you a full breakdown of everything Toriyama said and what still fits, to this day. So look forward to that. Anyways, moving on. Let's see. This is, again, them trying to figure out who Black is, and then they're trying to keep it a secret from the Grand Priest. Here's the Grand Priest. And
notice how in Zeno's domain, the universes are all floating on rocks visible for everybody to see.
It's kind of like how if you watch Loki, when they go to the end of time or whatever, He Who Remains, you actually see the time stream behind him.
Yeah, they are in a dimension above the mortal realm.
It exists outside of it.
Yeah, and that's something very, very important to keep in mind, is that they're like another level above the mortal realm, which is very, very important.
Right. And then, so next chapter here, Goku Black's true identity. Now, this is where we find out more angel lore. Whis reveals that angels cannot get directly involved in conflicts. And this is when Whis tells Goku that the Grand Priest is the strongest in the multiverse. In the anime, I think he said top 5. But in the manga, he said the strongest, like the strongest fighter. And then we have Goku reuniting with Zeno, this time in his land. Everyone's bowing down to him. Everyone's being respectful, but Goku is not.
So
Goku treats him as a friend.
Zeno being so excited to see Goku is essentially supposed to show you that Goku is an example of what they're trying to achieve with moral development. That's the entire purpose of this, is for you to see Zeno's reaction to someone like Goku in comparison to his reaction to the universe that Goku Black creates later on in the arc. The reason that the reaction is night and day is because it's essentially establishing to you the series itself standard for what a developed mortal is and what the antithesis of that is, which is what Zamasu and Goku Black becomes. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No. It's he sees Goku as like a friend more than as somebody who's like a subject who is beneath him. Even though Goku is beneath him, he's a mortal, but he sees, and all of this is done. All of this, the fact that Goku is friends with or hanging out with Whis and Beerus and now Zeno, this is all stuff that's part of the theme of the arc, which is the idea of gods and mortals getting along and Zamasu not liking that, and that's it's gonna play into the end of the arc, because all of this leads to basically Zamasu. I like how Zeno scares his own guardians. This all leads to the introduction of the Zeno button, which I did a short about this. I did a short about this once. The Zeno button is something Toriyama borrowed from an old Toku show where I forgot the actual name. I did a short about it, but you push the green button and the hero shows up. So that's what that is. Now, I have said it before and I'll say it again. I don't like the idea of a Zeno button, because if Goku's friends with something so strong that he can wipe out the entire multiverse, that kind of takes away some of the drama in my view. I'm happy Goku does not abuse it, but there you go.
I don't know if I agree with that, because I think the idea that you could easily piss off the person that you could summon and they could erase things that you don't want makes it kind of, you know what I mean? That makes it dramatic,
But it just feels like and I said it before, I liked it better when Beerus was not part of the main roster, because I like the character of Beerus. But Goku having friends in high places means that he can do things that like
the Grand Priest also says that even he is excited to see Goku again.
Yeah, because he wants to see him fight.
Yeah, so that goes to show you that, like, essentially, okay, you have to remember, in the TOP arc, the Grand Priest is the one that brings up the fact that the mortals aren't developing. He's the one that's like, hey, man, the mortals aren't developing. Let's erase them, this just isn't doing any good. The fact that he's excited to see Goku again, and the fact that this is all narratively there to reinforce the idea that Goku is essentially like, he is the ideal mortal within the context of Dragon Ball. That's what all of this is for. Like, this entire scene really is to just establish that Goku is what the gods are looking for. Like, they don't make it super obvious in terms of like just saying it, but they're making it as obvious as they can by showing you how much Zeno and Grand Priest appreciate Goku as a being.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on a minute. Anyways, let's see here. Okay, so here is where Zamasu goes and asks Zeno questions. We're now seeing Zeno again, and he's learning about the Super Dragon Balls because the idea of taking Goku's body starting to manifest. The super, what actually happened, and so Zeno's kind of threatening him and whatnot. What do you think about this scene right here on the left with Whis and Goku and Shin looking at the Earth like from the outside? Like it's almost like almost something out of a different series. Not saying that's bad. It's just different.
Yeah. I think the purpose of it is just to make it seem like they had to travel a bit, to go to. Honestly, I find it odd that they teleported back on the outside of Earth. I actually find that very odd, because they could easily just teleport anywhere back on Earth, but they chose to teleport right where they could see the whole planet, which I find odd. But I think it's more so just to maybe give Goku and Beerus and Shin and Whis some privacy to discuss this thing, because right after this they do, go visit Zamasu and everything. So that's probably part of it. But it's just, I think it's just an odd choice in terms of like where Shin's going to teleport them after that meeting.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Now, they're still kind of speculating if Kibito's the one, which I think that wasn't in the anime. That was just very goofy. And again, this is stuff. They're still thinking Kibito is the suspect, which is, I'll be honest, I don't really like that. That's something I hope they don't like. I like the fact the anime doesn't do that. You know what I mean?
What, you don't like that they you don't like that they make that joke about Kibito not liking mortals?
Well, it's more than just a joke, but they drag it on like freaking he actually is the guy when he's not. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me, because we know it's not Kibito. It's just, I don't know. I felt like the anime.
I think what they're trying to do is they're essentially just trying to point out that this attitude towards mortals isn't uncommon amongst them. There's other beings similar to Zamasu who kind of had this superiority complex over the mortals. I think they're trying to like hammer that home, but I do agree that they kind of focus on it a bit too much.
What about this line where Beerus says illegally uploaded on GodTube?
Yeah, that was definitely them acknowledging you in the manga, bro.
I don't know about me. All I'm gonna say is this: how funny is it that there are people who upload full episodes and full movies of Dragon Ball on YouTube, and nothing happens to them? Yeah, not as much as before, but they do still get away with it. Meanwhile, people like me and other YouTubers end up dealing with copyright issues.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I don't like Shueisha.
I don't get that.
So now they're starting to say that Zamasu could be Goku Black, and this is where, and he's even shocked that a Kaioshin could even be like that, because like we talked about, a Glind is not born good necessarily, right? There's evil ones too, but with Zamasu, he was not born evil. He just developed sinister motives. He developed an ego as he went along. Yeah. At least they never stated that he was born evil. For all we know, maybe he was, and somebody just fucked up and put him in the wrong place.
Toriyama talked about this in an interview. He said that Zamasu was born pure of heart, but that his purity backfired. He specifically said that in an interview, is that he was pure to a fault. He believed in his ideology to a fault.
Right. That's true. I remember that now.
His sense of justice was so powerful that it backfired. Now, you have to understand that Zamasu thinks he's the good guy, and that's what makes him pure. It doesn't matter that he's doing all these horrible things. He thinks that he is committing an act of divine justice, and that is the reason that he is still pure of heart, but his purity has been corrupted in the form of his ideology. So,
you got to be a kiss ass, I guess, to avoid copyright, bro.
Probably, yeah.
The things that you say sometimes makes me wonder, bro. Like, I'm not gonna insult you, but like this comment is so. Like, talk about being clueless. That's.
Yeah, you should call Toei and just whisper sweet nothings to them so they never copyright strike you again.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that'll work. So I love this scene of Trunks thinking about Goku Black in the rain. This scene right here looks like it was ripped right out of X-Men. Like right out of X-Men, because X-Men does scenes like this. Dude. Yeah, they do this type of emotional, like, I don't know how to explain it, very, very artistic kind of scene.
The color palette reminds me of it a lot too.
Yeah. Now Bulma right here is explaining exactly what Zamasu going to do. kill Gowasu, take the time machine, go to Trunks' timeline, take over Goku's body, and use the Dragon Balls. But he doesn't go to Goku's timeline because Goku's dead in that timeline. Goku's already decomposed, sorry to say. So instead, he goes to another timeline, which was what we would call the original main Super timeline, takes that Goku, etc., etc. You know how it is, bro. You know how it is. And Beerus wants to destroy him, and then Zamasu's like, well, if you do that, it's going to make another timeline, which is not necessarily true because of the time ring and the time loop. It's not necessarily true. It's a little bit different this time. So, Pilaf...
what the reason he's saying it'll make a new time ring is because once...
Well, he said a new world, which I guess it would be a new time ring, yeah.
Yeah, what he's saying is once you erase Zamasu, the time loop will be destroyed and there will be a new set of events that requires a new time ring because it's going to be a brand new set of events. That's basically what he's saying. For those of you who don't understand why...
The time loop fucked everything up, man.
The reason it would create another time ring is because by destroying Zamasu, he's creating a new set of events, and a new time ring is generated every time a new set of events is generated. So that's an important detail.
Yeah, no, I mean that's how it works. So they go meet Gowasu to warn him of what's going on. Meanwhile, Trunks now takes Goku and Vegeta with him to the future. You know, I always wanted them to do something like this where Trunks takes Goku and Goku, at least Goku, to the future. Yeah, and this time the battle's in the future. Of course, if you played Sparking Zero, this was a big part of that game. This thing became a freaking meme, dude, that Goku with the coffee.
That's one of the biggest Dragon Ball memes of all time. Like, that's...
Yeah.
I've seen it so many times.
So many times, dude. So he can sense that they're all back. They're there to try and beat Zamasu the old-fashioned way, you know, because Mai's all fucked up. This is like when he put his lips to her and like transferred over the senzu or whatever. He fed her like a bird, which led to Goku. I don't even want to get on that fucking kiss
Basically,
game.
it confuses Goku into thinking that bird feeding is kissing, and it's a weird scene.
He said he never kissed a woman before or whatever, and that started a whole thing in the fandom. I went to war with Tumblr for like a good 3 months over that shit because I was public enemy #1 for saying Goku never kissed a girl, even though they're the ones that wrote it, not me. But remember, anytime something bad happens in Dragon Ball, it's somehow my fault. So
I don't really consider it bad though, because Vegeta, I consider it funny, because essentially what's happening is
even Vegeta's like, you haven't.
Well, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Vegeta is misinforming Goku by accident. That's what's so funny about it. Is because the whole reason Goku asked the question is because he sees Trunks feeding Mai mouth to mouth. And he's like, what the hell is that? Why is he doing that? And then Vegeta's like, what, you never kissed your wife before? So, like, Vegeta is telling Goku something is a kiss when it's not a kiss. And that's what's so funny about it is, like, Vegeta's like misinforming Goku into thinking that something is a kiss when it's not. And that's, you know, to me, that's funny.
Right, but it wasn't taken that way by some people. I like how Vegeta says, nothing's more exciting than beating up a guy who looks exactly like you. That's a great line, bro. That is a great line. All right, Zamasu, says another Zamasu. So Vegeta goes right into Super Saiyan. I think he only used blue in the anime version. To go fight Goku Black, that is. And he said, I like how he says, I was getting bored of fighting Trunks over and over. And then here we have Goku Black using the traditional golden-haired Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
And right now, I want to explain something real quick. In Toriyama's drafts for Goku Black, there is a Super Saiyan Goku Black with the gold hair. In Toriyama's drafts, they had the golden-haired and Rose as 2 different forms. But when the anime version dropped, they only used Rose. They didn't use Super Saiyan Gold, the original. Therefore, the talk has been, and I'll go over this way more in the Super Magic Show episode, the talk has been that when they do this remake of the Trunks arc, that they're going to bring in that form of Super Saiyan as well.
Right.
I don't think it's that big of a deal, but people seem to like it. So
Yeah. So the next couple pages after Goku Black goes Super Saiyan,
it's a lot of fighting.
well, no, there's something he says that's very important here. You can turn the pages till you get to the dialogue, if you don't mind.
Okay, there's stuff down here.
No, with Goku Black.
Okay.
Where he talks about how much he hates the mortals.
I just want to say that I love this. Is some good art. I do enjoy
it. Looks great.
You're talking about over here. He doesn't even recognize what Vegeta he is.
No,
not yet. Okay. That means you can transform into Super Saiyan Blue too, but of course that's not what he has. So he taps into Rose, which he's about to do here in a minute. There's the teaser there, and then Vegeta goes into Blue, and Vegeta under Blue gets the advantage over Zamasu. Like he's knocking him around, like a much bigger power creep. Meanwhile, this is all going on. This is going to lead to Zamasu being killed because Beerus finds out about his plot. I mean, it's the first time we saw the Hakai ever used in Dragon Ball in the anime version. And then see
right here, evil
right
deeds.
here, right here.
To my acts of justice. They're
a lot of great villains think they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, and this is, if you've ever wondered what they meant by pure evil with Vegeta, this is what they meant. Vegeta's dedication to Saiyan pride is the same thing as Zamasu's dedication to justice. It's the same thing. Vegeta became a Super Saiyan because he was so disappointed in losing his identity as the person who had the potential to become a Super Saiyan, that he essentially kind of mourned his own death. He mourned the death of his ideology, and that's essentially what ended up causing him to become a Super Saiyan. Zamasu has that same thing going on. Now, the next few lines that he talks about, that he utters here as a Super Saiyan, is what I want to talk about, Danny.
Okay. You mean over here?
Yeah. So he says right here, this world where mortals feel entitled to rule over themselves is wrong. Mortals never stop killing each other until their planets are gone. Mortals must be eliminated. Mortals are the epitome of pure evil. This is
epitome.
This is expanding on not only why Zamasu is pure of heart, but they're showing Zamasu as a Super Saiyan here, because they're wanting to show you why Zamasu, as Goku Black, is capable of becoming a Super Saiyan, because he is pure of heart due to the reasons that he's mentioning here. And that's the reason that Toyotaro chose to have Goku Black say these things as a Super Saiyan, because the idea of becoming a Super Saiyan is associated with the purity of heart and things of that nature. So he's essentially expanding on why Goku Black is capable of becoming a Super Saiyan, as well as why he's pure of heart, essentially at the same time. And what's really interesting about that, and this is a cool parallel that I pointed out a few times, is that he became a Super Saiyan through his disdain for mortals, whereas Goku became a Super Saiyan due to his love of mortals, particularly Krillin. So it's
the other side of the coin.
Yeah, it's a really cool duality there that, it's really enjoyable.
It's great. And this arc, that's the thing about this arc is there are so many themes and deep aspects of it. It's still got issues, but I've always felt, Jordan, that you could take this arc with some editing and with maybe a better writer and make it one of the all-time great arcs if you do it right. There were mistakes made that I'm going to get to as we progress, but there's a lot of great ideas here about the nature of Goku and Vegeta, about the nature of being a god, about you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I like that so much because it really is an outstanding idea, and so this is where right here Goku Black reveals that he didn't actually beat the gods of destruction. He's not as strong as they are. Instead, he beat the Kais. He murdered the Kais, and that ended the gods of destruction as well. Vegeta's pretty much just all over him right now. What happens is Zamasu's powering up, or Goku Black is. Meanwhile, while that's happening over in the other universe 10. Now remember, this is a time travel story, so even though they're cutting back and forth, technically it's not in the exact same time, because the future timeline and like the regular timeline are separate, but narration wise they're cutting back and forth, but this is not happening at the exact same time. Remember to think about this fourth dimensionally.
Now, notice how Beerus says in this page.
Hakai.
Well, no, right before that, he says, "You finally shown your true nature."
Yeah, aka now we know you were an asshole.
Yeah, that is a very, very important line, because nature is a very, very important topic in Dragon Ball. Goku's nature is an Earthling. His nature is a Saiyan. And what I really enjoyed about this line after rereading it post Daima is, to me, it reveals that Zamasu and the Glen have an evil nature that they have to constantly tame through their efforts purifying their heart, becoming a Kai, very similar to Piccolo when he purified himself and became Kami. The Glen and the Kai have to put in constant effort to essentially achieve that same thing. And we're essentially kind of seeing the true evil nature, the evil demonic nature of the Glen coming out through Zamasu, which I find interesting and cool.
I mean, yeah, and it is rare that they're like that, but they are, And then he gets Hakai'd, good night. And then I like how Beerus threatens him, like, don't make this mistake again, all right? If you pick up another freak like this, I'll destroy you. Like, please do not, like, fuck up and get a bad apprentice here. And then Trunks notices that Goku Black's getting stronger. His Saiyan form's getting stronger. So Zamasu's version of taking over Goku's body is not the same as Captain Ginyu's. And the main reason as to why, because I think some folks will say, oh, it's because he's a god, or oh, it's because he uses Super Dragon Balls. And while those may be factors, what it really is, and it was talked about earlier in this volume, Zamasu is a well-trained martial artist. Yep. Therefore, because he's well-trained, when he takes over Goku's body, he knows how to utilize that ki as good as anybody else can. Now, there obviously was a time where he had to get used to it, an adjustment period, but we still, it's still the same thing. He knows how to use that body better than Captain Ginyu ever would.
Right.
So there's that. Now, at this point, we have the reveal of another Zamasu, which was done a little bit different in the anime, but there's Zamasu and there's Goku Black. The Zero Mortals plan is revealed. Right now, here is an actual explanation of the time loop. I did the video first. This is their version of it, where you have Trunks' world, then Goku's world, the main storyline. The time traveler went, there, but before that happened, Goku Black went here, because it's a loop. See, look, the loop, it goes down the right side, then back up the left side. Sorry, down the left side, back up the right side. I got it backwards. Yep. So, and it says that when Zamasu's killed, the new world where Zamasu no longer exists, that's what they were talking about. And in theory, killing Zamasu here would have prevented Goku Black from existing, except that he used the time ring to hop over to the other universe instead of using Trunks' time machine.
Yeah, in the original iteration of it, he escaped before Beerus ever had the opportunity to investigate and erase Zamasu.
Right, and even though he got erased in the past, therefore it should erase Goku Black's existence, because he had the time ring, he was able to get away from that timeline. So, and thus save his ass, really, to be honest. And this is where they've already kind of gone back to the past now. And again, we now have two enemies to beat. So now they're kind of worried about what's going on. They don't understand why Goku and Vegeta are still there. This whole thing. And then here we have a new time ring was manifested.
Generated.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's because of the death of Zamasu at the hands of Beerus.
Yep.
So even Beerus is, although not purposely, fucking around with time travel.
Yep.
So they go back to the future. This time Vegeta goes right at Black with Super Saiyan Blue. Black, of course, has gotten stronger as he continues to get stronger.
This part of it is pretty important. He says, "And now I get it, the true nature of the Saiyans." I love that line. Toyotaro like set the paper on fire when he wrote that line. I love that line. But he talks about how he can essentially tap into more power through rage. That's something that Zamasu is like figuring out, which suggests
The
that he
bloodline.
subconsciously that suggests that he didn't consciously understand that when he achieved Super Saiyan the first time. He subconsciously understood it, and then later on consciously understood it and implemented it into making his Super Saiyan form stronger. So
Yeah. No, I mean and that's why him in Super Saiyan is able to damage Blue Vegeta. You know, it's that's why.
yeah, he's very strong.
Yeah, and I thought this was well drawn. I think Toyotaro did well here. Now we have Goku Black smashing Vegeta. It's just very one-sided. And now here comes Zamasu. This is mostly him talking shit. Essentially that he's gotten stronger and he's gloating about it. And then we have the debut of Super Saiyan Rose.
That's not all he said. It's not
all he said.
An important explanation. Yeah, he says the more these damaged cells,
the Zenkai,
the more that they become but it's more than a Zenkai because his cells are becoming Zamasu cells instead of Goku cells, and that's the reason he ends up getting Rose in this version, is because as he gets stronger and as his cells become Zamasu's, essentially, once he reaches the battle power of a Super Saiyan God. And first of all, he has the battle power of a Super Saiyan God here. He can't correctly implement it to convert it into God Ki yet, but that's because Zamasu, unlike Goku and Vegeta, was never taught the Ki control technique in order to become Super Saiyan Blue. That's something I talked about in my previous video. He's just naturally that powerful. He was not taught the technique to produce God Ki. He was never taught that. So that was the reason Toyotaro did it this way, is because now he doesn't need to know the technique. He naturally becomes a God Ki related form through his cells, through just being a god himself.
And this is all part of the that's all part of the adjustment period. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to have the chi control technique that Goku and Vegeta does. He just naturally has God Ki as a side effect of being himself. So that was the reason that Toyotaro kind of changed this up a little bit, is to essentially establish that, one, Zamasu doesn't have the same ki control technique as Goku and Vegeta, but also the way he becomes Super Saiyan Rose is slightly different than how Goku and Vegeta become Super Saiyan Blue, because it's a side effect of his cells being the catalyst rather than the chi control technique. So,
look, man, I'm just gonna say this because I see what you're doing. If your brain is having trouble following along, if you are one of those guys that likes to look at Dragon Ball surface level, this stream ain't for you, brother. Listen, there's a lot of YouTubers out there you can go watch and you can watch them play fucking video games if you want or whatever the fuck. If your brain capacity is limited, I don't even know
how you bring yourself to type something that like.
No, go in, bro. Don't let me stop you.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I don't even get how you bring yourself to type something like that publicly. Like, are you proud of being ignorant?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, it's just a weird thing to say publicly.
They're proud of being simple-minded. Couldn't be me, bro. Couldn't be me. Hey, I'm not forcing you to be here, bro. Anyway, so Zamasu, like as you said, he's getting more. This is all part of the adjustment period. He's getting more and more accustomed to to becoming. Well, actually, bro, I got a lot more, but I'm not gonna let you control my stream. And you're probably this close for having me boot your ass out of here, and I don't even feel. I'll forget about you in 5 seconds. So either you can leave on your own, or you shut the fuck up, or I boot you. Your choice. The choice is yours. The choice is yours. Anyways, the choice is
Yeah, I just
yours.
don't. It kind of seems like he just enjoys making himself look like an idiot in public.
He's one of those
Like,
guys
I
that
don't know.
wants attention. He's one of those guys that wants attention, bro, because he doesn't get any of it in real life. There are
Yeah,
a zillion of them, bro. There's unfortunately, they're all over the place. Very weird behavior,
True.
very beta behavior. So here comes Goku Black introducing Rose, which is, his version of Super Saiyan Blue. It's obviously, a polluted evil version, an elegant version, it's kind of cool though. Like I've always thought that the pink and black mix, it's like Bret Hart colors. And that's always been like a cool thing. I've always been a fan of that. Now we have Super Saiyan Blue Goku facing off against Zamasu, and Vegeta Blue against Rose Goku.
Now,
So
this isn't a Chinese. This isn't a Chinese thing, but this is a Japanese thing. So in Japan, the color rose is the color that represents death. So that's
pink,
very,
the
very
color
interesting. Well, rose, yeah. It represents the color death, the color that you see on cherry blossom trees. Actually, there's a character in Kingdom Hearts, and just a little trivia here. Kingdom Hearts is Toyotaro's favorite series outside of
and
Dragon
Grams.
Ball. There is a character in Kingdom Hearts that has pink hair, wears all black. He's a representation of death within that series, and he has a pink scythe, exactly like Goku Black does in the anime. So
That's where he got the idea from. Well, remember the anime? Yeah, the anime did it first.
Yeah, they did it first. I think it's just a cultural reference, but yeah, I definitely do think that Toriyama or Toyotaro was fanboying over Goku Black as a side effect of that.
So this is the last thing of time I addressed you. First of all, it didn't work because nobody's upset, nobody's angry, right? That's number one. Number two, if you're coming in here just to rage bait, all that tells me is that you have too much time on your hands, and I could never waste time creating YouTube accounts to troll YouTubers. Like that's like just I don't have enough hours in the day with my life to be that bored and sad to do that. So if you wanna fucking make another account, bro, then be my guest. But this whole like I'm rage baiting, all you're telling me is that you're a fucking loser. I'm not mad. You're just a weirdo loser, and nobody's mad, bro. Nobody's up. You didn't get anybody mad. It's just like I'm more in my head thinking. I wish I understood why people are like this.
Like this. Yeah.
It's just it's embarrassing. Like it's embarrassing, bro. I could never be like that. I could never waste my time being like that, bro. So anyways, this is a pretty decent fight. The paneling I think has improved. Maybe not yet to Toriyama's level, but I think it has. All I know, Jordan, is seeing this just reminds me so much of Sparking Zero. Like, oh man, like that.
Oh,
Yeah, you have to those fucking alternate like routes and shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I like
so
this.
This is something very interesting. Goku just straight up tries to kill Zamasu here.
Well, there's multiple times. There's more later where he tries, but are you talking about right here when he impaled him?
He doesn't know he's immortal there. That's what's so interesting about it. And he even apologizes to him right before he kills him. He's like, "I'm sorry." Like, basically, this is kind of the series telling us that Goku has found Zamasu irredeemable this fast. Like it took like. This is very, very quick for Goku to be like, nah, this character is just pure evil. He has to go. This is very, very quick by Goku standards.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. So, here is where they kind of explain that Zamasu is immortal. That was another wish that he made. Now we've got a Garlic Jr. situation where we can't kill this guy, and that's trouble because Goku is not immortal and he is. I like this right here, bro. Zamasu takes the Senzu beans and destroys the bag. We haven't seen a villain do that, bro. Cell took it and Gohan took it right back. He's the only other guy to actually take a Senzu bean. That's kind of cool, bro, that Zamasu did that.
Yeah, yeah. It's something I think we've kind of low-key wanted to see for a long time.
Right. Now here Goku Black is just destroying Vegeta with these self-righteous promos he's cutting. Again, Toyotaro's doing a great job with the art here. And the paneling is improving, although it's not quite where it needs to be. Trunks with one of the most useful techniques in the whole series, Taiyo Ken, which means sun fist, but in the dub they call it solar flare, but it's a sun fist, even though I don't hate the name solar flare. That blinds them and they dip out. They dip to the sewers because they can't win this fight right now because we're dealing with an immortal and a very, very strong Goku Black. So this becomes a thing where now they're trying to like find them. Mai shows up to fight and then Trunks, bam, from behind on Zamasu. This would have been the end except for the fact that he's immortal. So yeah. So meanwhile, Goku and Vegeta are in the time machine. Trunks is fighting his ass off in what I think is Super Saiyan 2. Then they dip out.
That would normally have been where Trunks got Ikari. But
Right before this, yeah. Right here, I think, is when he would have got it. Give or take.
Yeah. And instead, they just give him basically a rage-boosted version of Super Saiyan 2, which, to me, just to get into the Ikari thing, I just see Ikari as just like almost like Trunks' beast form.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's basically like, instead of using Ultimate form as a catalyst, as a hybrid, it's like if a hybrid used Super Saiyan as a catalyst for their rage. And to me, that makes a lot of sense because Trunks, and we talked about this in the old Mangalorian episodes when we covered Dragon Ball Z, Trunks and Goten have always been more themed and focused and centered around Super Saiyan as a concept in comparison to Gohan. Gohan has like his classic rage boosts where he he can be in a base form and still get ridiculously powerful. Whereas like Goten and Trunks became Super Saiyan as literal children, So there's always kind of been that like Super Saiyan centric theme to their character, and like Super Saiyan being like the main output medium for their channel or for their power. So I like that Trunks embraces Super Saiyan and pushes it to like a new level as a hybrid. I think that's cool. And that's basically that's what I've always seen the Ikari form from the anime as, is just like a powered up version of Super Saiyan that only Trunks can get because he's a hybrid and because he has those hybrid emotional sort of rage boost things going on. But he just kind of uses Super Saiyan as the catalyst in comparison to Gohan using the ultimate form in Superhero.
I think also what tripped people up was the fact that the Ikari form has blue in it, and we learned to associate blue energy as God Ki based on Super Saiyan Blue. So I think that tripped people up. I mean, your explanation, it would make sense that it's. I remember somebody, maybe it was Oppai Senpai, called it Super Saiyan 2.5. That Trunks discovered something in between 2 and 3. Which, or maybe when Trunks trained with the Z Sword, he absorbed some God Ki, but hasn't learned how to properly use it like Goku. So it's almost like something in between Super Saiyan 2 and Super Saiyan God. I did a whole transformation guide on it, and unfortunately, there's not enough of a definitive explanation. But yeah, they took it out. It's not in the manga. So that form is in the video games.
I mean, it's called Ikari, so to me that kind of indicates that it's a rage-based form. You know what I mean?
You want to talk about rage baiting? Tell me this is not like a definitive attempt at rage baiting me, bro.
I actually don't think it is. I actually think they legitimately believe that.
No, man, he's not that much of an idiot. No, he's not, bro.
I've met so many people that say that unironically that it just doesn't.
I have too, but I think for him to come into this stream, I think that's what happened, bro. So I really like this extra like bonus at the very end, because this is the end of the volume, where we're seeing Toriyama correct some of Toyotaro's art. Toriyama did not do the art for the entire manga, but there were some panels that he did correct. And hey, I mean, what are you going to tell him? No?
Can we, since we made it through the volume, can we bring up the bonus comic?
The one that you sent me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that would be awesome, particularly since that guy tried to act like there's no Chinese mythology in this. It'd be really funny.
Oh, that guy, that idiot. Yeah, let me hold on. Let me
switch to
make
the American version. So,
well, this is the American. It's the only one you sent me.
no,
is
I
this
mean like
version.
make it go from.
Oh, hold
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, but anyway, so this is the six-eared macaque chapter of Journey to the West.
Right.
Okay. And we're just going to roll through it real quick just so I can show you just how similar this is to what happens with Goku Black. So I'll just kind of explain the story to you, and then Danny can go through the pages as I explain it. So this is Sun Wukong essentially waking up from a nightmare, or actually starting to experience a nightmare where he's facing an older version of himself. So you can go ahead and change turn the page, Danny. So this is showing Sun Wukong in heaven, okay, amongst the realm of the gods. This is essentially Sun Wukong's inner demonic nature, very similar to Saiyan nature. This is the bloodlust that Sun Wukong has that he is trying to get over. You remember the same bloodlust that I said Raditz had, that he was trying to encourage in Goku, and the same bloodlust that Zamasu has as a result of killing the Barbary? This is essentially Sun Wukong having a dream about experiencing that bloodlust, because it's something that he's focusing on, because it's something he's trying to purify himself of. Because at this point, Sun Wukong has been on the journey to the West for like half the journey, and he's starting to purify himself of that evil, but he's still struggling. So this dream is essentially like an acknowledgement of the problems that Sun Wukong still has in terms of his own nature, right? So this is essentially, you can read right here, the top of this panel. We go to the right, the panel on the right, and zoom in.
I've been waiting for this moment for centuries. Now I'm going to taste the blood of those who make my blood boil, which is a very Zamasu thing to say.
Yeah. Now go down here. So he's the Jade Emperor says, "Die, you vicious creature," and he says, "We're all vicious creatures. You've just learned how to disguise it. You treated me like a monster or a demon from the day we met, so I'm going to be the devil you long for. You provoked my viciousness. You've left me no choice but to accept my nature." Now, doesn't that sound familiar? So essentially what this is what Zamasu did. Zamasu experienced this aspect of his nature, and he embraced it. And this is also the aspect of Goku's nature that he abandoned whenever
But
he
he
was
taps
purified
into
by
when
Goku.
necessary.
Yeah. He does tap into it as a Super Saiyan, and he controls it as a Super Saiyan. But this is essentially Sun Wukong going through the exact same process that Goku purified himself of, and that Zamasu was corrupted by. So you can go ahead and go to the next pages.
Yep.
So
Already
as he's wiping out the gods in this dream and killing them all, you go ahead and turn the page. Eventually, a fake version of Sun Wukong shows up. You can turn it until he shows up, because he shows up here and you just see him murdering all the gods. There's like
this is
blood
all good
everywhere.
shit, bro. Look at him, bro.
Yeah, so this is the fake Sun Wukong. This is the six-eared macaque. So this character is a representation of Sun Wukong's demonic evil nature. It's basically, you can kind of think of it as the part of Goku's nature that he purified himself of, or the part of Kami's nature that he purified himself.
What's the name of this manga?
This is not a manga. This is just a Journey to the West comic.
It's an American comic.
Yeah, there's links to it in multiple videos that me and Danny did in Dragon Ball X Saiyuki. You can probably find it there. If not, I'll give Danny a link to it to put in the description of the video, and you can check after the video's over. But I'm not going to do it right now. But if you want to check after the video's over, maybe he can update the description and you can check it out.
If
But
you
anyway,
send it to me, yeah.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. So this is Sun Wukong meeting the Sixer Macaque, the fake version of himself. You can go ahead and move on a page.
This is where
And
they
he
fight.
ends up almost losing to this version of himself. And what this represents is Sun Wukong's violent Saiyan-like nature starting to win out over his Buddha nature, or it's very similar to Goku's Earthling nature. So that's essentially what's happening here. Is subconsciously, Sun Wukong is struggling to purify himself of his demonic, violent nature, and this dream is a representation of that. Okay, so you can just move on.
The battle.
At the end of the dream, Sun Wukong actually loses to the evil version of himself, and he wakes up from the nightmare in pain, as though he actually was hit in the head by the Sixer Macaque, which is really interesting. You can keep going, Danny.
All right. Keep going.
See, right there's where he gets the blow to the head.
Right. I love that panel.
Wukong. You know, like what's going on? This isn't right. Like I'm the only Sun Wukong. And then he wakes up from his dream.
It's like
Now,
Goku Black and Goku.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is when he wakes up from his dream and he goes to approach his master wants nothing to do with him. And that's because during the course of this dream,
Right here. Get away from me.
Purify himself of his evil. The Six-Ear Macaque, or his evil, has become an entirely separate entity. And that separate entity has escaped his body and is running around causing havoc and destruction. Okay, so he purified himself of the evil, but the evil is running around causing chaos and destruction. What's that sound like? You know, that's basically King Piccolo, right? It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So
and later on Majin Buu, but that was always just another Piccolo. Piccolo was the OG of doing that.
Yeah. So Sun Wukong begs for forgiveness, and then he eventually runs into Pigsy and Sandy. And Pigsy tells him, he's like, listen, dude, he's like, we just saw
There's Pigsy right there.
We just saw you murder an entire group of demons and bandits mercilessly. Like, we don't know whether or not we can trust you or not anymore. We just saw you, like, go into just straight great ape mode, you know, and murder like all these people in front of us. We don't know if we can. He basically was just like in a pure state of violence and bloodlust, because that's originally who Sun Wukong was. He essentially was a great ape. Like when he embraced his nature, he became just an engine of destruction. That's what he was.
We've talked about it before, but even though Goku is a good person and a good character, and he is based off of Sun Wukong, but Sun Wukong is not that for a big chunk of his story. Sun Wukong is the antagonist for a big chunk of the story.
Yeah, he essentially goes from being Vegeta to Goku.
Right, and that's something people have to understand. You know, they might not know
from
that.
Being a conqueror who wants to kill the gods and take over everything, to a Buddhist martial artist who is constantly putting in the effort to tame his ego, similar to the Kai, similar to Goku, similar to the gods. It's the same thing.
And Pigsy is like a mix of Oolong and Yajirobe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that kind of a mix.
Yeah, so this is them witnessing the Six-Ear Macaque earlier that day, murdering people and thinking that it's Sun Wukong. And so that's the reason that his master abandoned him, is because he essentially saw him just like viciously murdering all these people, and it completely destroyed his morale in terms of like his perception of Sun Wukong. Now, another really interesting thing that happens here is that after Sun Wukong tries to get in Tripitaka's good graces again, the Six-Ear Macaque pops up and attacks him and tries to kill him, which, of course, ruins his efforts to try to make up with his master. So right here, Sun Wukong is being tortured by the souls of all the people that the Six-Ear Macaque murdered, because Sun Wukong is starting to develop empathy for life in a way that he didn't have before. And that's essentially what this scene represents, is Sun Wukong developing empathy for life and for, you know, the cycle of life and death and stuff like that. So And as a result of dealing with this, it's bringing out his demonic nature. It's making him struggle with that part. It's basically Majin Vegeta. What you're seeing here is Sun Wukong struggling with his Earthling nature due to his Saiyan nature. It's literally the exact same thing. He's changing and he's struggling with it, and it's bothering him. Their part of him is still trying to retain that violent, evil nature that he had before, just exactly like Vegeta.
It's very much like when Goku went Super Saiyan on Namek, and Toriyama didn't really spell it out. You have to really look at the way he drew it and the stuff he was saying. But Goku himself was trying not to get trapped in that nature either, because the transformation was bringing it out of him.
Yeah, rage. So Sun Wukong, his whole thing is that when he gets enraged, he loses himself to his emotions and to his demonic nature.
Like Gohan.
And that's essentially what Super Saiyan also was for Goku. When he was enraged, his inner Sun Wukong was coming out. That's what it was. Like, he was essentially like kind of like Super Saiyan basically was like making him into kind of like turning him back into what Sun Wukong was. And I've always loved that. But anyway, you can keep going. There's one particular section of the comic I want to get to. So if you want to skip a little bit, keep going. I'll tell you when to stop.
Okay.
There's one.
Keep going.
Yeah, keep going. Oh, there's the part where he kills his master, or he attempts to kill his master. Now, this is the six-ear macaque going back to his monkey army, and he essentially declares that he wants to go make the journey to the west by himself so that he can claim all the credit and essentially become something that resembles a god, right? So this is a representation of what Sun Wukong's purpose would be for the journey to the west if he didn't develop a new, more purified Buddha nature. He would just be doing it to get credit and become something akin to a king or a powerful figure. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's doing it for power, not for good reasons.
Yeah. And that's what this scene represents. It's very, very similar to Vegeta. Basically he wants to just be a powerful, dominant force in the universe. He wants to dominate and control everything and everybody around him. So it's that sort of thing. Now, you can keep going. There's one particular... So I want to get to the scene towards the end. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but... Okay, so keep going. Keep going.
Whoa.
So right here, Sun Wukong transforms into a dragon against himself. I think that's pretty cool, too. Keep going.
Hold on. Where's my mouse? There we go. Okay.
He turns into a turtle shell.
It's so weird.
I know, I love it. The transmutation stuff.
Yeah.
So whenever Tripitaka attempts to use the circle tightening spell as well as Guan Yin, it tightens on both of them. And this confuses everybody. They're like, why is it working on both of them? Okay, you can keep going now.
All right. So
essentially what you end up finding out is that both Sun Wukongs are the Sun Wukong. They are both Sun Wukong. It's just that one is Sun Wukong completely giving into his nature as a demon, and the other one is a Sun Wukong who is taming that nature and attempting to control it, but it's still there. That's something I want to clarify here, is that Sun Wukong's demonic nature is still present in the good version of Sun Wukong. It's just that because he practices Buddhist martial arts, he has essentially learned to control and use it as a weapon and as a tool rather than completely giving into it, and that's essentially the Goku and Vegeta dynamic. The six-ear macaque completely embraces his demonic, violent nature, and the good version of Sun Wukong embraces it and uses it as a tool within the context of martial arts. So you can keep going. We're almost to the end. So
keep going?
Yeah, right here. So
okay.
In this scene, they use a mirror that reveals the true nature of Sun Wukong. And when they use the mirror on both Sun Wukong, they both become these giant great ape like figures, and these figures both represent Sun Wukong's inner demonic nature. Okay, it represents who Sun Wukong actually is on the inside. The only difference is, in like I said before, in one instance of this, Sun Wukong is controlling that aspect of his nature because he's a Buddhist martial artist, and then in the other aspect of it, he is just completely being dominated by it, something akin to like the Great Ape, right?
And it's something that we deal with on a daily basis sometimes.
Yeah, so the Jade Emperor says right here, how can they both look the same? The mirror reveals the mirror's power reveals the true nature of all living things. So after
Are they
this,
both real? Yes.
after this, Buddha acknowledges this. He basically points out, he's like, it's because they're both the same being. It's just that one is struggling due to the fact that they're embracing their demonic nature, and that's causing them to act violent. And the other one is acting violent in response to trying to control and purify themselves of that nature. Okay, so here in just a minute, and you can see him fighting right there. You can go on. I think maybe 1 or 2 pages.
Well, I went like 3 or 4. Did I go too far?
Yeah, keep going. Okay, so right here, go back 1 or 2.
Right here.
I mean, go back 2 pages.
Here.
Yeah, right here. So
Okay.
Buddha says here, you share the same soul, but this is the result of the mind being at war with itself. So this is essentially what happened with Majin Vegeta. His mind is at war with itself. He's struggling to purify himself of his demonic, violent, hateful nature. That's essentially what's happening here. He's having a psychological battle with himself. You can go ahead and go on to the next page. So the answer that you can skip a few more. There should be a panel of him. That's where the 6-ear macaque is revealed.
Yeah, I was gonna point that out. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, but so right here it says zoom into that panel where he's holding his chest.
This one.
Yeah, it says my chest. It feels like it's caving in. I go down. I just destroyed the imposter. Why does it hurt so much? And he says it's because you just destroyed part of your mind. He just destroyed part of himself, right? And this is also what happened to Goku whenever he hit his head and was raised by Grandpa Gohan. It's just he didn't consciously do it. He was
a lot
purified.
of stories. I was just gonna say a lot of stories have done this where you have to fight the bad version of yourself to get it out of your system, type of thing.
Yeah, this is what happened to Goku when he hit his head. Essentially, 6-ear macaque was purified, but the thing is like Goku's nature as a Saiyan is still there. It's just that he has to use Buddhist martial arts to constantly tame it, and that's ultimately the conclusion that Sun Wukong comes to here in the next page. If you want to go ahead and change the page, he essentially realizes that he can't fight. He can't fight. Who he is. Okay. It says right here, but you must never cease in your efforts to unify in your mind both good deeds and evil deeds. That is the only way to be your true self.
Yeah.
So basically,
which is kind of like what Beerus told Vegeta, isn't it? In Ultra Ego training.
It's the exact same thing. It's literally verbatim the exact same thing.
But I thought Dragon Ball had no Chinese influence.
So essentially, the ultra ego thing is very similar to Majin Vegeta for the same reason. It's like destroying yourself, recreating yourself from scratch, embracing your identity, but taming it and controlling it. It's that same idea. Now, the conclusion that Sun Wukong comes to here is that the only way he can defeat himself is to befriend himself, and this is essentially playing on the concept of the monkey mind. The monkey mind, if you fight it, can become your greatest enemy. Okay, your emotions can become your greatest enemy. They can cause you to do things that you would not do. That's uncharacteristic of your behavior. If you fight it, but if you embrace it and you use it as a tool and as a weapon, it can be your best friend. And that is a lesson that they've taught in martial arts for thousands of years. And that is a lesson that Sun Wukong as a character represents, is the philosophy of a martial monk. Violence is something that is not necessarily good, but it is something that's supposed to be tamed and controlled and used as a weapon for good, And that's essentially the conclusion that Sun Wukong comes to here, is that he can't completely erase that part of his nature, but he can control it and use it as a weapon to further his goals in terms of like protecting Tripitaka and achieving the end goal of the journey to the west. And that's what causes him to become the victorious fighting Buddha. What makes Sun Wukong as a character interesting is that he can use violence without sinning. And the reason he can use violence without sinning is because he essentially purifies his violence by purifying his own intentions for that violence.
Yeah.
So essentially, when he kills somebody, when he uses violence, he's not doing it with malicious intentions. He's doing it with pure intentions. And that's the reason that Goku's character arc of using violence, via martial arts, is so important. Is because that's essentially Sun Wukong's character arc. He goes from being this like super violent, destructive creature to becoming a Buddhist martial artist who uses martial arts to purify his intentions and become the victorious fighting Buddha, which essentially just means that he can punish and destroy beings without creating negative karma for himself. That's what makes him the victorious fighting Buddha, is that he can use violence and not be punished for it the way other mortal beings or other creatures would be. So, also, it's very important to remember that he essentially is merging with himself at the end of this chapter. He's not destroying himself. He's merging with the part of himself that is evil and using it and controlling it and using it to his benefit, which is very similar to what's going to happen in the next chapter that we cover in the Mangalorian, where we see merge Zamasu, except it's the opposite. He instead of controlling his evil nature, it completely dominates him, and that fusion represents the opposite of what Sun Wukong represents, in that it's not him purifying himself, it's him being corrupted by his evil nature. So
yes,
I just wanted to point that out because, a lot of people, they doubt these connections, but they're so obvious. They're so clear.
It ain't that deep, Jordan. It's just, Dragon Ball has no story. It's just a fight. People just want to fight and scream.
Yeah. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. It's been a great stream. Thank you guys so much for stopping by, and I guess we'll see you guys soon, right?
Well, we got 2 more super chats and then we're out of here.
Right.
Kiryu said, "What do y'all think of Goku Black and Heroes?" I don't know what to think about that. He's just a Heroes character. Super Saiyan 3 Rose was an interesting look. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love what they did with Goku Black and Heroes. The whole like Super Saiyan 3 Rose thing and all that stuff. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, just ignore it.
No. All right, so Junior says, "Jordan, your laugh reminds me of the beginning of the Wipeout song. May it your knowledge and handsome looks change many such as your spouse. Also, listen to the new Gorillaz album." Bro, why do you hit on... he hits on every single guest I bring on. He was all over Jake's dick last week, bro, this guy.
Hey, man, I'm flattered.
No, you should be. But still... Quit hitting on my guest, bro. What Gorillaz album is he talking about?
I can't even remember the name of it. I just listened to it.
New?
Yeah, it just came out. I binge listened to it on YouTube while I was studying one night. I didn't even pay attention to what the name of the album was, but it is it's an album that just came out, and it is decent.
Yeah,
I like the old Gorillaz better. My favorite album is Demon Days.
That was like 2000, right?
Yeah, I like a lot of Gorillaz, but I do prefer the older stuff. I like the new album, but I prefer the older stuff.
Fair. Yeah, I mean, me too, for anybody, not just them. Just the way I am. Alrighty, well, thank you, Jordan, of course, and everybody else for hanging out with us. We'll see you guys in the next Mangalorian, which will be the continuation of this arc. We got Fusion, we got...
The Mountain, that is what it's called. The Mountain is the name of the album.
It's actually called The Mountain. Okay. Yeah. And then I'm sure that the Super Magic show with with Heesh that's going to be coming up soon. We're going to go into the Trunks arc again. A little bit different this time, but still, it's just a continuation of our coverage because now that the super mangas, or the super anime is being remade, I mean, what the hell? Like, we got new stuff to talk about, So, Volume 4 of the Mangalorian is next. So, stay tuned for that.
All right. See you guys later.
All right, y'all. Have a good one. Take care, and we'll catch you in the next one.